Good. I don't know why that strut just made me laugh. That strut just made me laugh. And it was a shorter clip than I usually use, but that Nick Fuentes strutting it, walking out of the SPLC just made me laugh with his little Nazi. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. I hope you all have had a phenomenal day. Mine was actually a pretty good day. Pretty good day overall, I would say. I should be a little better adjusted here as I threw on my jacket before I came live. Tonight, we have a pretty heated dispute, a very heated dispute about claims that Trump made that he helped save 8 Iranian prisoners from being executed, 8 women who he says were in danger of being executed, and folks are claiming that the images of these 8 women, which you see in the thumbnail, that those look AI, and questioning whether he's making up the entire story, whether it's true or not. We're going to look into those claims and see the validity. So try to do our best abilities to try and figure out, was this a real salvation from Trump, or did he actually become part of the fake news? Yeah, fake news. Which is it? Also, Canada is has taken a very bold step with respect to their citizenship and opening up to potentially millions of Americans that they can just snap their fingers and become Canadian citizens. Are we going to see a mass migration? Why is this happening now? I have thoughts on all of this that I wanted to share with you. And finally, tonight, I want to cover for you the developing brouhaha that the USPS, the United States Postal Service, is finding itself in as to whether or not they should help process these mass mailings of mail-in ballots. Should they be pushing them forward? Should they be stopping them? We saw a Trump EO that we covered, wherein he was basically directing the Postal Service not to process them. Democrat senators are coming out in mass trying to push them to keep processing them. And we're going to see how this battle is unfolding. Also, we have a goal tonight. If we hit 15 super chats tonight in quantities of $10 or more, and I remind you, it does not need to be super chats. They can be Rumble rants. You folks in the ghetto there, you're just as golden. You could be sending it to me in the Diggers Lounge over there in Locals. You can be sending it there. You can have a carrier pigeon which you sent out before the show and is going to come pecking on my window. I will open up my window for that carrier pigeon and count it toward our goal. If we get 15 of those, I will be doing a show on Saturday night. So you'll see me here Saturday night. Also, if we get 20 of them, I will not only be doing a show Saturday night, but I'll actually I have enough stories to cover to just sort of review and sort of catch up things from around the week that are rounding out for today. It's going to basically be pretty much like 3 hours. So all that and more. What else can I bring to you? Oh, and I have probably the biggest story of the week, and that is obviously that Jim Satala is back.
I'm back, baby.
I'm
back, baby.
He was sent to Elba. He was banished by YouTube, having lost his monetization, and now he's been saved yet again.
Yes, I was saved again, but I have to thank everybody, all the people like Joe, like Megan Fox, like Nick Rekieta, like Andrew Branca and Robert Cavea and Yellow Flash and Ethan Van Sciver and Brian Ogden and so many people that I can't even name them all that said something, that contacted YouTube, that sent messages, and they actually denied my appeal, and it was denied and over. And then out of the blue, when all this stuff started happening, people started saying things on Twitter and stuff. I got a DM from Team YouTube, and they said, "Contact us." I had to do this thing and verify it was me. And then they said, "We're sending this to someone else to look at it." And they sent it to them, and then they gave me my stuff back.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have only have all of you people that helped to thank, because you did it.
Wow.
It wasn't me.
That's whatever it is. You know, to whatever small role I help play amongst those other far more powerful men and women than myself. I'm honored to have helped in any way, shape, or form. Jim is a genuinely, as you know, if you've ever watched me or you ever watched my shows with him, which is a weekly feature here on Thursday nights, or you've had the pleasure of watching him work. He's a great content creator, and he was wronged this week. He had been demonetized, and thankfully, after appeal, he still had been rejected. And not going to kid you, I was like, he's effed. I was like, he's asked me what to do, and I was just like, I'm so terrible in this area. I felt like, you know, people are coming to me like, as a lawyer, you're a lawyer, content creator, you deal with YouTube all the time, you should know like what steps are involved here. And I am terrible about this area of law. Like when it comes to DCMAs, like I'm just like, when I've dealt with this in the past, which thank God I haven't had to deal with this in the last couple of years or so now, I would always go to other attorneys who are YouTube content creators, and I'd be like, dude, what do I do here? What do I do here? And that's why when Jim was coming to me, I felt like I was embarrassed. I was like, I don't even know what to tell him to try and make us better, because I don't think it's going to get any better. And then lo and behold, bam, just the court of public pressure really works on YouTube. So I'm so happy for you. Yesterday when I had Sin on here, he was saying that with Tug, when he went through something similar, and perhaps that got them pushed.
Well, I think that Tug's happened after me, but he was able to he's got a lot more people.
He's got much more clout than I have.
Yeah, and so a bunch of people, and then that happened, and then he realized it was me, Megan Fox, and other people, you guys, and all sort of stuff. So then it was a little bit after Tug got restored that I got the message from.
And if you're not familiar with the name Tug, it's the acronym for That Umbrella Guy. He became very, very popular during the
Johnny Depp when the lawyer said, that umbrella dude.
Yeah, yes.
Or the umbrella man or something. I don't know what she said.
He does have the honor of having been referenced during the Johnny Depp trial. So he's the way Elaine phrased his question is, do you know the umbrella guy? He's like, what? It's like, do you know the Muffin Man? The Muffin Man who lives on Drury Lane.
Lives on Drury Lane.
Yes. Yeah. Do you know the Muffin Man? Do you know the umbrella guy? Yeah. So anyway, so the umbrella guy, fondly referred to as Tug, which is the acronym for That Umbrella Guy. He went through a similar thing, and I do think that timing on that worked out well for you, and thank God, because it's so unfair. It's so unfair for what they're doing.
I'm actually seeing it is a problem. A lot of people got whacked, and it seems like maybe the reason I got hit, maybe they started at the smallest people and started going up, and then once they got so high, it's like it caused a problem. But it's got to be something wrong. Like there's something broken in their system where it was basically just like watching a couple seconds of a video and go, oh, this is all the same. This first minute is all the same. So anybody who has an intro, then they're screwed.
I don't know if that's what I don't know. I mean, I felt blessed that I wasn't hit when you were describing what you were describing, which is essentially if you're covering the news and reading these long stories, in that case, you're susceptible to being demonetized. And I was trying to think why I didn't get hit, because I would think any sort of disqualification that I might possibly be categorized as fitting into that group, that YouTube would just be like, he's like rubbing their palms together, like, yes, now we got him. And I was like, and yet somehow it didn't come here. And then I realized that while I cover the news and law and politics here, I spend way too much time, and my audience will verify this, I spend way too much time just rambling off on the mouth. So they probably were like, he's really not talking about the news. He just pretends he is. So I don't know, but thank God we're very, very pleased that you are.
Before we get into the first story of the evening, I just have to point out that I've been doing this new thing. I use Super Grok, to develop my thumbnails. So someone told me that it could be because I was using the same thumbnail for every show, because it was just like breaking news, whatever, talking about this. So I thought that was good. But So I've been using Super Grok to create my thumbnails. So tonight I told Super Grok, I took the the topics and told them and said I was going to be with Joe. And I saw when it was developing, it said, like it took my name. When I said Jim Tells You, it said Jim Satala. And then when I said Good Logic, it said Joe Neerman. And so Grok created a thumbnail with what they say you look like and what they say I look like. And it's right here if you want to pull it up.
Totally. Let's see what we got here. Nice.
So Joe's beard is much better. Like, I think I look great. I mean, I wish I looked like that.
Yeah, I think yeah, wow. All right. All right. It's
I mean, they got the hat, but it doesn't say NYPD. So I think,
it's like I'm looking in a mirror.
Yeah.
It's pretty. As soon as I saw that, I was like, wow, they really captured my inner essence. That's great. So anyhow, very, 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 very happy for.
So I have to say, I like Super Grok.
Yeah. And I'll tell you that I saw here. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you. You're getting some love. Where Low Watermark saying, "Can I just send $100 super chat and not send 10 of them?" Yeah, you can. And I'm just gonna blow the horn here again. I'm just gonna point out. Yeah, when I'm making like my goal here, that's from my channel. So you sent this to Jim, and he's very appreciative.
I thank you very much.
He's very appreciative, as I'm sure. Yeah, and it's very cool of you considering all the agita he's gone through this week to be so incredibly generous. But when we're talking about for purposes of the goal. And Eclectic Deb over here also, it came in and she wanted to wish you congratulations, and that's great. But what I'm saying is, for purposes of the goal, yeah, well, we got Brian Adden saying, "I'll say thank you and bring on the goal, and God bless you." Yeah, but Low Watermark, that doesn't really do the whole goal. No, that's. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll count it as one toward the goal, because I'll count it as one toward the goal. Just to be nice. Decided to become an anti-Semite. Cool. All right. Good on you for that. Had to fix the hot water at retirement community. It will never be kosher enough. Can you make heated water kosher? I don't even know what that means. Yeah, you can. How do you make heated water not kosher? It's hard to make. And the way to make heated water not kosher is if you cook it in a pot. I don't want to go through the whole rules of kashrus, but I'll just to explain to you that flavor goes into the walls of a pot or a container, particularly when there's heat applied or when it's settled in there for 24 hours or longer. So that's why, it's when you're essentially pickling it by keeping it in there for a long time, so flavor goes into it. So that's why you'll see, like with whiskey, they'll put it in a sherry cask, because they want to infuse it with flavoring from what's in the walls. Similarly, if under Jewish law, if you're cooking something in a pot that was used for non-kosher food, either because you had bacon cooking in there or combinations of milk and meat, that would, in theory, make anything that's cooked in the pot absorb the flavor and thereby become not kosher. That's the only way you could take water and make it not kosher. As a general rule, though, if you just took a brand new pot or you just or whatever, and boiled water in there, any person who did that, the water would be considered kosher. Now, people might not trust to eat it or drink it, but it is, it's hard to make, it's challenging to make water not kosher.
So kosher doesn't mean blessed by a rabbi?
No, kosher doesn't mean blessed by a rabbi at all.
I thought they had to come in like the kitchen and, bless the kitchen or something like that?
They're not blessing the kitchen. What you have is doesn't have to be a rabbi. It could be any learned Jew who understands rules of kashrus. But what they're
inspecting it then?
They're inspecting the area. Okay. Exactly. It's like an inspection to ensure that there's nothing that's happening there which would make food not kosher. When it comes to slaughtering animals, it's a little bit more intense. There's actually, because it's a very technical laws about how to do a proper slaughter in a way that's going to comport with Torah, which is designed to be the most humane way to kill an animal. That's actually the rules of kashrus come from. So there you go. Look at this. Kimberly Campbell.
Your horn isn't working.
My horn's not working because the reason that didn't happen is because I sort of had removed that. I will give you the horn. So there you go. Yes. So can I count this as the goal? I'll tell you right now. It's not, I mean, the goal is a little bit more than that. I'll give it enough credit that if we get anywhere in the ballpark of the goal, I'll basically honor the goal. I feel so pressured. Yeah. So essentially, I'll count on. I'm going to end up counting it. I know when it all is said and done, I'm going to end up counting it as like, pretty much like 10. So yeah, if that helps, because I'm not looking to, I appreciate the love that you all share. Thank you so much. You're very, very generous, Kimberly. God bless you. So let's get into our stories this
I think
evening.
you're stuck now.
What? Fine. Go. God bless you, Kimberly. All right. God bless you. How do you say no to that? How can anyone say no to that? You can't say no to that, right? All right. Thank you so much, Kimberly. You're really amazing. God bless you. All right. Where was we? So now we can start actually covering our show because we took care of that. Although I will say Jay Schwalbach is over in the Rumble, and so is Uzelian. Uzelian says, Joe, huge breaking news. What do we got here? Huge breaking news he wants me to look at. U.S. soldier charged with using classified information to profit from prediction marking bets.
Oh, I saw that. That broke late. Yeah, one of the guys who went on one of the Green Berets, or the guys who went, I don't know if it's a Green Beret. One of the guys who went to get Maduro knew when he found out what they were doing, made a bet $30,000 that they were going to capture Maduro.
Really?
Yeah, and he made like $450,000 on the bet, and so they found out about it. So they're basically saying like he used classified information to make the bet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
that broke at like 8:00 tonight, I think, or something.
All right, I'll try to see if I can get to that. I'll try to see if I can get to that, because that is an interesting story.
That's always the problem when I do the emails earlier in the day, because that stuff happens after I send it out and I can't.
I know. I mean, I actually started, you know what, I'll share with you. You can talk about, like, different streaming techniques. I find, this is what I find invariably. Maybe, I don't know if you've ever tried this. Whenever it is, I'll create a stream, and then I want to pump it out to the public, let them know what time I'm starting, and give them the title and a link. So I'll put it on Locals. I'll put it in a community. I'll make a community posting about it, and I'll put it on X. Invariably, when I go to X, so I'll click, I'll click the little X icon in the upper left corner, and it'll give me the newest stories. And then I'll have where I can, post your tweet, and then below that there'll be like the newest stories. And invariably, the top link, next link after that will be something I'm not planning on covering. And it'll be stories that I'll be like, oh man, I really want to cover this. Like, there's something there that like I really think is interesting and my audience would want to hear about. So invariably, when you see that I have like a whole bunch of stories that aren't referenced, not always, but often they are things that I found after I set the show up, that I'm just like, let me throw this in. Exactly the sort of thing like what Uzelian was doing here, where he's like sharing a link to me, where I'd be like, oh, that's a really interesting thing. I really want to cover that. So yeah, it feels very frustrating, because I'm like, do I change my description? If it's a big enough story, I'll change my description. But and I'll try to throw into the title, but that's very rare. It has to be a really big story for that. Jay Schwalbach says, Joey, remember the days when we only talked about boobies, a woman's tatas, breasts being fake or real? I miss the simpler times back then. Either way, it was good. I don't know what you're talking about. I have absolutely no idea. but they were simpler times. They were much, much simpler times. Let's get on in here because I got a lot of things that I wanted to cover with you. And I'll start off with this, seeing as how I'm looking that we're going to be going overtime. I'll share with something with you, which actually Kimmy threw this at me a few days ago. Did you hear? You heard how about Candace Owens, like her lawyer Mark Kasowitz is a big time. Then when she was being Loomered, Laura Loomer was going hard after Candace Owens, and she exposed a few things. First and foremost, she basically made public a whole bunch of properties that Candace Owens owns in trust for the purposes of trying to help the Macrons to execute on a judgment, because these properties are worth many millions of dollars. And she was throwing out all sorts of speculation why she would have two properties a couple miles apart from each other that are worth several $million. But and speculating about the state of her marriage and whether one spouse is living in A and the other is living in B. But the other thing that Laura Loomer brought out was that her lawyer in defending from the Brigitte Macron lawsuit is Mark Kasowitz, who is a hardcore Zionist. And she was speculating about the hypocrisy of Candace Owens, who seems to just be very, very fixated on Israel, with having a Zionist attorney, like a staunch Zionist attorney, defending her from the Macron lawsuit. And then Laura Loomer broke this today, which I thought was hilarious. Breaking: Mark Kasowitz, the Zionist Jewish lawyer who Candace Owens hired to represent her in the defamation case filed against her by Brigitte Macron and Emmanuel Macron, just withdrew as the lead counsel on Candace's legal team. He's no longer representing her as counsel. The withdrawal comes days after I exposed how Candace Owens hired a Zionist Jewish lawyer who also represents President Trump, despite talking about how much she hates Zionists, bashes Jews, and smears President Trump with defamatory comments on our podcast every day. That's hilarious. Trump's, yeah.
It is, but isn't that like the opposite of what a lawyer is supposed to do? Aren't they supposed to represent everyone, no matter what their political, whatever, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I agree with you on that. First and foremost, whenever a lawyer resigns, it's, unless you're in the room,
you don't know why.
Yeah, you don't know what. We don't know why. We don't know whether she fired him. And he now, she says, I don't want you representing me, and then he has to file a resignation. In the legal filing, he would say, I'm resigning. He would withdraw as counsel, but we don't know. And that's why when I quote tweeted this, I said, there's no way to know if her lawyer quit of his own volition, was asked to resign, because it really could be either one. But yeah, this is, she's been having this public feud with Candace Owens, and Candace like, oh, I don't really care about anything she says. She's a crackpot. She's a loony. And as I said when I was covering this earlier this week, okay, I would never ever qualify myself as a Laura Loomer fan. Okay, I have a lot of problems with Laura Loomer. I find her
just as crazy.
Yeah, and grating. I find her to be grating and kind of crazy. That's my, and I'm sure she's a nice person. I'm saying personality wise, I was just like, I think like, would I ever want to be like spending like an afternoon with this individual? And I shudder at the thought of like, oh my God, I would just basically, want to be like, my ears would be bleeding. I'd be like, oh God, just stop talking. Oh, it's like, that's how I would feel. But she can be effective with her investigative work, and
some of the stuff she comes up with, it's like, oh God, she was right. So, I don't know, but like this could be anything. This could be a monetary dispute. There could have been an argument. It would be quite on the nose for Candace to accuse her Jewish lawyer of ripping her off, right? Like, you're charging me too much. You're overbilling me or something like that. I'm just saying, that would be funny. That would be funny. Like,
I like what you did there. I like what you did there. That was good. That was very, very good. I would tell you that the timing makes it seem like it's almost impossible it's not related to Laura Loomer. Like, it's just like, you have to be, are you kidding me? Like, this is, of all weeks, this is the week, within like days of her break. When did she break this thing? She broke this thing on April 18th. Today's April 23rd. within 5 days? No. This is absolutely Laura Loomer. And I love the idea that this woman, Laura Loomer, who, as I said, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan, and I think she'd be kind of crazy. But this is the best use of crazy, is you sick crazy person on another evil crazy person. So it's almost like you're letting this, this rabid dog, and you're setting it on like this vile snake. So it's like, yeah, go for it. Have fun with it, rabbit dog. Go for it. Like that's why when I was writing it, I was just like, sure, let's grab the popcorn. Let's go. The bully's being bullied. It's fun to watch.
Reminds me of that scene from the Avengers when Tony Stark is talking to Loki, and he says, Loki says, "I've got an army," and Tony Stark says, "I've got a Hulk."
Yeah,
it's like, you've got a Candace, we've got a Loomer.
There you go. There you go. We'll sick our crazy Loomer on you. So. There you go. Loomer is kicking her butt, and it's fun. It's fun to watch. And this ties into something else I was planning on playing for you all. I thought this was pretty funny, actually. This is actually supposedly an ad for Israel. Supposedly, this is an actual Israeli tourism ad. I don't know if it's true, but.
Israel.
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 Israel. Israel.
Israel.
Israel. Israel.
Israel.
Israel.
Israel.
Israel.
Israel. Israel.
Israel.
Israel.
Israel. Israel.
Israel.
Israel.
And I was like, why are you so obsessed with me?
Oh, why you so obsessed with me? And boy, I wanna know. Lying
They've got good PR people.
Isn't that great?
everybody know.
Isn't that great? I mean, the rest is just like, women walking around bikinis.
And they don't pronounce it right. It's Israel.
Yeah.
But they're pronouncing it Israel like it's Israel. Is this real? Is this fake? Is it real? Israel. That's great.
Yeah, no, I thought that was just like really, really funny PR. So yeah, it's pretty clever way. And that those people are fuming that they're being used as part of like an Israeli PR campaign. So there you go.
That's a good question for you.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's not to derail the show. We don't have to get into like a whole heated thing about it, but I don't know if there's like right of publicity. Do those people have a claim for right of publicity?
Yeah, I never know how it used when it's like a 2-second clip of you. I don't know. I was
just wondering, like,
I don't know. I don't know what part of this seems unethical to you, Kelly. See, I assume you're talking about Mark Kasowitz resigning. As I said, we don't know whether he was fired. We don't know whether he was fired. And it also doesn't seem unethical. You're not forced to work. I mean, you sort of have to, if in fact he's like, let's imagine what happened was like his office starts getting all sorts of phone calls, which is like, why are you, if you're a Zionist, why are you representing this crazy, Jew hater in Candace Owens? And he's just like, yeah, I don't need this. I got like a real thriving law practice. I just don't need the headache. It's just not worth it to me. So it's not unethical. He would have to give her notice. It's assuming he decided to step down rather than her firing him because she was humiliated by the fact that she looks like such an obvious hypocrite. So, but you're not obligated. And this is why a lot of law firms, we saw with Trump, when Trump was looking for legal counsel, that he struggled to get legal counsel. And you could say, well, it's unethical for these law firms to say no to him when he's trying to hire the best law firms. And they're all like, no, 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 no. And we saw that happening a lot. But you could sort of make the counter argument, which is like, so wait, are they obliged, assuming that they feel like there's too much of there's a potential backlash that they're going to take financially for being associated with Trump, that they're not obligated to say, well, I have to represent him because he wants me to represent him. That's just not. It's not the way it works. Lawyers fire their clients all the time.
And look at all the backlash that Alex Jones's lawyers got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people crave it, like Norm Pattis, who represented Alex Jones in Connecticut. Some people crave it and thrive on it and really appreciate it. But those people are they're in the extreme minority, not just a minority. They are in an extreme minority. Folks like Norm Pattis. Most lawyers are financially conservative to a fault. and they're like, if this is going to cause bad PR, I am not touching this thing. Like anything that's going to expose them to financial risk, they will flee. And that's just what lawyers have always done. That's how they've approached cases forever. It's the same thing, by the way. Like, let's say someone has a legal claim that they want to press, and a lawyer's like, I don't want to take your case. Just regular person walks in the door. I had this with my wife's grandfather. He had surgery to remove a piece of his colon, and because it was gangrene near the end of his life, and then they ended up cutting out another piece of him and another piece, and it was just kept spreading. And it seemed like it was such obvious medical malpractice, and everyone that I spoke to, he ended up dead within like a month. And it seemed like such terrible malpractice the way they handled his case. And when I tried getting his estate counsel to actually press forward on the claim, every lawyer is like, yes, this seems like incredible malpractice, like that's ridiculous that he went through like 7 surgeries during the last month of his life, every time removing another organ from his body, and it seems like it's incredible malpractice. And yet at the same time, none of them wanted to touch it. And they were like, it's going to cost us. And in medical malpractice, we have to put up not just a doctor who's a specialist, but it has to be like the specialist of the specialist in order to successfully proceed with that. They cost, instead of being your typical $5,000 to $10,000 for a doctor who's going to testify as a forensic scientist, they end up charging $50,000, $75,000, or it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars for their testimony. And when you're talking about an older man like this, we know our expected financial return on this case is much, much lower than if it was a young person. That's just the way the math works. So they're like, and since we'd be working on contingency, it's not worth it to us, because even if we end up getting a $500,000 victory, we're going to end up having to invest $400,000. It's not worth it to us. So
especially in medical malpractice, you got to pay a lot of experts.
That's what I said. That's exactly what I was talking about. The medical malpractice experts are incredibly expensive.
Yeah, so, not to mention the time you spend doing it yourself.
Right, you have to get compensated for that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, all the hours you're putting in, you have to get compensated. Like, why would I want to touch this case instead of handling different cases where I can actually make more money out of it? So in that sense, it's not really. It sounds unfair, but it's as far as if you're looking at fairness for everyone involved, you can understand that hey, they're not obligated to be a slave here to work for something that they don't want to do. So, an anti-Semitic question, of course: cold water and thermal transfer hot water. What is with all the kosher questions? Is there kosher hot water? Or after system diagnostics could have been less? I don't know what you're getting at here. Cold water and thermal transfer hot. Cold water in, thermal transfer hot water out. Okay, so you're cooking water. Is there kosher hot water, or after system diagnostics could have been less? I'm baffled.
I don't understand. I think he's a plumber and he's trying to make a plumbing joke, and I don't get it.
I think there's probably some sort of joke that's supposed to be happening there also. Miss Idloy, M. Sidloy says, how much do you want to bet that Candace Owens' accountant is Jewish? I have no doubt at all. No doubt at all. All right. You remember all that talk, by the way, that we had about Trump potentially dropping a nuclear weapon on Iran? Remember when this was going on a couple weeks ago?
Well, there was something just the other day they were trying to say that somebody refused to give Trump the nuclear codes or something like that. I was like, what?
Yeah. So there was all this talk because he made a comment about ending the Iranian civilization. That meant he's going to be like dropping nukes across the great country of Iran. So he actually addressed that today. He actually addressed that when he was in a press conference earlier today.
Would you use a nuclear weapon against Iran? You posted on Truth Social a few weeks ago.
We don't need it. Why do I need it? Why would a stupid question like that be asked? Why would I?
A stupid question from a stupid person.
What a retarded question. Why would I be dropping nuclear bombs?
Why would I use a nuclear weapon when we've totally, in a very conventional way, decimated them without it. No, I wouldn't use it. A nuclear weapon should never be allowed to be used by anybody.
Would you use a nuclear?
A nuclear weapon should never be allowed to be used by anybody. That's the man I voted for. Right there. Right there.
You saw too that the Navy, the Secretary of the Navy was fired, right?
Yeah, I saw something about that.
I think I know what that's about because Trump made a comment about it. I'm not trying to derail, but
no,
Trump
it's
made
okay.
a comment about it
Give something you want to share.
Building,
Go for it.
about building ships and stuff. So he did. There was a report that came out like 2 days ago. I did covered on my show about the Navy that he came out and said like, yeah, we're going to re-looking at this Gerald Ford aircraft carriers. They're too expensive. We're gonna cut it back. We're gonna have aircraft carriers, but we're gonna just way too much money to spend on an aircraft carrier. We're gonna get rid of this, get rid of that. And I think that pissed off Trump. He's like, no, I like those aircraft carriers. They're supposed to be the best there is in the world.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happened. Like he shouldn't have opened his mouth.
Well,
getting rid of the aircraft carrier, the new aircraft carriers. Like, what are we going to do? We're not going to have new aircraft carriers. We're going to stop construction and go back to old stuff.
Yeah, I think he gets very frustrated when it comes to folks asking him questions about the military. But anyhow, I want to get into like the thumbnail story that we were talking about with respect to the Iran with Trump's claim that he saved 8 women who were scheduled to be executed by Iran. So it's not. I'll come back to him. I'll come back to that super chat soon.
Okay, I think I understand what's going on now. He's a plumber. He went and did put in a hot water heater, did some work on a hot water heater, and they're telling him that it's not kosher, so they're not going to pay him.
Let me try to knock this off now. Is there an actual religious reason or is somebody threatening civil action to avoid paying me? So what I will tell you is this. So what did he describe? He said he's saying cold water in, thermal transfer, hot water out. Is there a kosher hot water, or after system diagnostics could have been less? So I'm a little bit confused. I'm a little bit confused about what he's asking me.
He's saying he went and did some work on a hot water heater. Maybe it didn't replace it. He did something to it, and they're saying whatever he did contaminated it.
It's difficult for me to understand how that would be not kosher. No one worries about having kosher water coming out of their system. Although I guess, how would you make a boiler not kosher? That's really hard to do. Because you have to have, I don't even understand how that could possibly be. I don't know enough about your particular circumstance to say definitively no, but it sounds very ponderous to me what you're describing here, Chad. That's what I'll give you. Because like I said, the traditional way that something would become not kosher, water would become not kosher. And I can understand if someone is a religious Jew and they want to have hot water that's coming out of their system, that they want to know that that water is not kosher. I think I have so many questions on the theories.
I mean, somebody would have to bust open the hot water tank, all right, and stick like an entire ham in there,
right? And cook it in there, so it goes in there. And here's, it sounds a little bit, and even in a boiler, like it would be, bittul b'shishim reasons that it probably wouldn't be a problem. But some folks, when it comes to laws of kashrus, are very, 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 very strict in ways that defy what I would think are things that are perhaps necessary. So I'm not sure. I can't tell you definitively that it's garbage, but I'll tell you that it sounds ponderous to me. I think that's the best way I can answer it. I need to get back into my story.
Okay.
All right. Trump stops executions. 8 women protesters spared in Iran after last-minute intervention. Okay, what's the story here? So clockwise and left to right, you got Pana. From clockwise from left to right, you have Pana, Mavita, Bita, Hamadi, Mabube, Shabani, Ensia, Nahati, Gaza, Galandari, Diana Tarabadi, Golnaz Naragi, and Venus Hosanijad. That's the best I can possibly do. President Donald Trump announced
They've all got really fabulous eyebrows.
This is what people are going to be asking about. This is what people are going to be asking about, that this looks like they're from a portfolio. Right? I mean, when you look at these 8 women,
except for that one.
Except for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look like they're in a portfolio, and these are women who are supposedly all hostages who in Iran who were slated to be killed by the Iranian government for some sort of alleged.
And none of them are wearing hijabs either.
Oh, maybe that's why. Maybe it's the lack of hijab, which is why they were slated for execution. I don't know, but a lot of people have questions about these pictures, that they don't look like your typical, hovel living, folks. They just look like these are like headshots for a portfolio. So the question is, but these are the 8 women who he claims he saved. And that's where we're going with this story. President Donald Trump announced that 8 women protesters in Iran facing execution will not be put to death after his direct intervention. So clearly he's portraying himself as being their savior. He saved their lives. On Tuesday, Trump urged the Iranian regime to release the detainees. Quote, to the Iranian leaders, who will soon be in negotiations with my representatives, I would greatly appreciate the release of these women. I am sure that they will respect the fact that you did so. Please do them no harm. Would be a great start to our negotiations. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. He was quote tweeting Eyal Jacobi, who had said breaking the Islamic Republic's plan to hang 8 women. Not a word from the international community or so-called human rights organizations. Eyal Jacobi, who is a strong Zionist, is a very popular account. And he shared that out about what was going on in Iran. And Trump quote tweeted it and used that as his launch point to basically make a public statement to Iran saying, hey, make sure you don't execute these women. It would be really cool of you not to do so. And now, supposedly, they agreed not to. Just one day after President Trump publicly demanded their release on Truth Social as a goodwill gesture ahead of critical negotiations, the president announced the life-saving breakthrough. Trump announced on Truth Social that the execution schedule for tonight have been halted. 4 of the women will be released immediately, and the other 4 will receive only 1-month prison sentences. As he wrote, very good news. I've just been informed that the 8 women protesters who were going to be executed tonight in Iran will no longer be killed. 4 will, as we just said, 4 released, 4 will have a month in prison. I very much appreciate that Iran and its leaders respected my request as President of the United States and terminated the planned execution. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay.
Wasn't there like a whole soccer team or something that was supposed to that like first did something like when the I think when the bombings and stuff first started, maybe, or when there was the protests or something, they were out of the country and they were going to defect, and then they threatened to kill their family if they didn't come back. Is this them, or is this a different group of women, or these women even exist?
I would not think that Iran has a female soccer team. I don't think
propaganda.
I do remember there being something with the Iranian soccer team. That does ring a bell. I just don't think it was the female soccer team, and I don't recall exactly what the story was there. But what you said sounds familiar. I just don't believe. I can't imagine that Iran would be cool with having a bunch of their female representatives running around in shorts on a soccer field. So it just seems thoroughly inconsistent with everything we believe we know about the IRGC, right?
Okay.
So I don't know. So I'm not sure what these women had done. Maybe they took these headshots. I don't know. Recall the horrors we've reported here, the Gateway Pundit, during the January 2026 nationwide protests against the tyrannical Ayatollah regime. The IRGC unleashed the live ammunition on unarmed demonstrators, killing thousands, including hundreds of women and young girls. Iran's execution machine went into overdrive, with the regime hanging protesters in public squares as a warning to anyone daring to demand freedom. Just 5 days ago, we reported on the barbaric plans to execute the first female protester, Bita Hemadi, along with her husband and 2 others, after a sham revolutionary court trial. The regime has been ramping up its reign of terror, executing 65 women in 2025 alone, a sickening record. while the so-called international community and left-wing media look the other way. Last month, the bloodthirsty Iranian regime carried out public hangings, executing 3 young men, including a promising 19-year-old wrestling champion, over their alleged involvement in anti-government protests earlier this year. I think this is the Iranian who was hanged. So that came from Jim Hoft. All right, so that's the overall. Now you have a general. Excuse me, sorry about that. Now you have a general feeling for the story. But folks are saying that these are not real people.
So what are they saying? Like Trump got played by a hoax, and then the Iranians just said, "Oh, he's talking about something that ain't real, so let's just say we'll do it," and then he'll think we did something for him, or
well. Wu-Tang for Kids says, "Oh, hey, great news. Trump saved the 8 AI-generated women from being killed." Obviously sarcastic. And Clint Russell, also known as Liberty Lockpod, who's I consider a friend. I would say an online friend. Even though his alliances are a little bit more woke righty than mine are. But he says, this is a good war propaganda test. Do you see this and think, wow, Trump saved these women from the evil mullahs? Or do you read this and go, wow, 8 near model level Iranian women wearing makeup and no hijab. This is probably AI generated. The war must be going really badly. So he frames this as an either or, which I think is a little bit ridiculous. Because I think I can come up with 100 different other possibilities. Not that the war is going badly. I can think to myself, okay, and here's, Daniel, he's quote tweeting Daniel Alvarez saying, "Reminder, Trump saved 8 innocent women from being murdered today." My question is, where are all the feminists congratulating him? And Liberty Lockpod Clint is saying, are you crazy? Like, do you really think this happened? And I'm gonna actually throw this out as, before we go any further in this story, and I am gonna throw this out as a poll. Do you think it's real, or do you think is it real, or is it fake? That's really the ultimate question here. That is the ultimate question. So let's make this a poll. Start a poll. And I actually asked this question to my community when I put notice of this. Are the 8 women that Trump claims to have saved real people? I'm just going to leave it as a yes or no. Okay. I'll just leave it like that. And I'll ask you in the ghetto to weigh in with that.
There is an Iranian soccer team. They did try to get asylum in Australia.
Female,
yes.
Really?
Yes, and only 2 of them remained. The other 5 went through their claims and went back home. So I don't know. Might some of these women be them? I don't know.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised. But so now there's all this question as to, are these real people or are they fake? And so the first person who I saw weighing in on this was, I don't know how to send my feed, but for those claiming, so this is, I don't think it's a big account. Yeah, this is a relatively small account. For those claiming the 80 Iranian women facing execution are AI just because their photos were cropped on a black background, you're truly vile. These are real human beings. They're the same people in the image on the right. They have names, they have families, and she gives off the names. Reducing their reality to AI just because you hate Trump and think he's an awful human makes you an even worse one, because you're complicit in erasing their very real suffering under the Islamic regime murders. So that was, and I think that's an interesting point. These are the original pictures, I guess, of these women. And you can see, I think these look like these original shots. Do you see them on the screen here?
No.
Like, here is this woman here is brought over here. So they basically cropped her out from there and put her in the black background. They cropped her out and put her here. So I do think that these do look like they were taken from Facebook. I don't know. That's Golnaz Naragi. is this one. I don't know who that is. I'm not sure. I think it's this one. This woman is here. I'm trying to match it up.
Well, according to a fact check on Yahoo News, these are real women.
These are real women.
According to Yahoo. I don't know if you believe Yahoo.
Yeah. I think that doesn't mean, though, by the way, that he saved them. These are real women. There's actually two parts. There's two questions to this. Are they real people?
Were they really going to be executed? Did he really save them?
Were they really going to be executed? And did he really save them? Right. So, and I actually found an article from the New York Post, which does an interesting job in breaking this down, which I wanted to share with you all. So Trump says Iran won't execute the 8 women after he demanded their release. President Donald Trump announced Wednesday that Iran will no longer execute. Let me move this over a little bit here. That Iran will no longer execute 8 women after he pleaded Tuesday for their freedom, calling it very good news in his social media post. Quote, I've just been informed that the 8 women protesters who are going to be executed will no longer be killed. And that's what we read. Very much appreciate, blah, 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 what we read earlier. The announcement came hours after Trump extended a 2-week ceasefire with Iran as U.S. negotiators await Tehran's reply to the latest American offer to end the nearly 2-month conflict. Iran's judiciary denied that the 8 women were ever set for execution. So they're saying, no, we were never going to kill any of these women, claiming that Trump was misled once again by fake news, and that some of them have been released while others face charges that, if convictions are upheld, would at most result in imprisonment. So they're like, no, we weren't going to kill them. Some of them were going to be jailed. So just to remind you, in case you joined in the last few minutes or so, Trump said 4 of them released, 4 of them will have 1 month in jail. They're saying, and that's saving them from being killed. They're saying none of them were ever going to be killed, and the worst any of them could have gone was jail time. But even saying they're going to get jail time, 1 month in jail is relatively, you would assume is relative, is probably much smaller than anything else that they would have gotten under Iranian system of justice. Iran's claim is contested. One of the women, Bita Hamadi, was sentenced to death for allegedly being part of a group that threw objects onto Iranian forces during protests in January, human rights groups said. And they have a link here for that. Where we'll come back to this. We'll come back to this afterwards. Her case was reported last week by the US-based human rights activist news agency and the Abdurrahman Burahman Center. Hamadi and 4 men were convicted of participation in protest gatherings on January 8th and 9th, including chanting protest slogans, throwing objects, including bottles, concrete blocks, and incendiary materials from rooftops, and destruction of public property, the activist news agency said. However, 2 of the 8, Golnaz Naragi, 37, and Venus Hoseneja, 28, have been out on bail since late March, according to Norway-based Iran Human Rights Organization. So when he said 4 are being released, that it could be that there really were only 6, not 8, and 2 of them had already been released. And Trump was reliant on Eya Yacobi, who made the claim that there were 8 women who were scheduled to be killed, and really there were only 6. So that's my first thought is like, okay, so he finds some poster who says 8 women are going to be hanged, and some of them are scheduled to be hanged, some of them are scheduled to be killed, some of them are scheduled perhaps for other forms of punishment. Some of them may have been, I don't know if they're out on bail. Out on bail doesn't mean you're free. Out on bail just means, you're walking free today, but looking at potential punishment in the future. Iranian dissident Masih Alinajah, who lives in the U.S., publicized the cases of the 8 women, tweeting their names and photos and specifying which 4 were believed to be sentenced to death. So let's pull that up over here.
I mean, why are we doubting? Why are so many people doubting that Iran would execute 8 women? They killed 40,000 people in the fucking streets, people. Come on.
Yeah. No,
more.
I agree with you. I think that it's your classic Trump cynicism, which motivates people to say, there's no way he could have actually saved someone. So these 4 women received death sentences simply for demanding freedom in Iran right now and sitting in prison waiting to be hanged. Where are the left and the liberal in America? Why are the leaders of feminist movements so quiet? Where are the progressive leaders? So let me get this straight. When I asked Kamala Harris to condemn what's happening in Iran, people said I was being too radical. Too radical? Women are being hanged. Teenagers are on death row, and I'm the radical one, not the Islamic Republic. So let me ask again, where are you, AOC? Where's Ilhan and Michelle Obama or Elizabeth Warren? You can write 10 threads about Trump before breakfast, but somehow you can't find 10 seconds to ask the regime to stop execution in Iran. So these are the 4 women who were supposedly slated for death. This woman here doesn't look anything like... You can see how it's like, okay, those photos that we got seem to be very AI-enhanced versions of these women. And I think that's likely what happened. I think what likely happened is perhaps there was an objective of misleading. Perhaps there was a good faith objective of trying to motivate people to feel sympathy out of recognition.
If you're going to want them to make them look as pretty as possible because people are going to be more sympathetic.
Precisely.
I mean,
precisely.
That's bad, but it's
the reality. It's the reality, right? So some people might have been like, I can save this woman's life if I use a little AI to touch up her nose and her smile so that she looks a little better than she does in this picture here.
Take her mustache, move it to her eyebrows. Yeah.
Exactly. So, soften this woman up a little bit so she looks like a little bit more appealing and basically using that to try and save their lives, right? So if that's in fact what they did, I don't think that that's a terrible thing. It would explain why so many people are like, this is AI, and that's because the picture itself may be AI. But then saying that because the pictures are AI, that makes this story fake is pretty mutton-headed. Like, what are you crazy? Like that's your whole attack? Does that mean he didn't save any of these women? Or
these people are going crazy. You've got senators cheering on the stories, which is it true or not? I've seen reports that the CENTCOM is denying it, that Iranian ships have been running our blockade. Yeah, you go, Iran. It's like, you're a fucking U.S. senator. What are you doing, dude?
Yeah. Like how sick in the head do you have to be rooting against American forces? Like, you're really deranged. This is her talking to Kamala Harris, I think.
I am tired of seeing some politicians here in America, especially
this is she's going with the whole Amelia Bedelia look here.
Democrats making this about their own politics, scoring political points like Kamala Harris. Suddenly, she kept quiet about the massacre. Suddenly, she found a voice condemning the targeted military strike against the killers. So when ordinary people get massacred, you don't have any problem? Who are you?
Donald Trump has dragged us into a war the American people do not want. He has put American troops in harm's way. I unequivocally oppose this war of choice, and everyone should. And the bottom line, when it comes down to it, is that if we want to stop Donald Trump with this random decision that he has arrived at, then Congress must act, and Congress must act immediately. The American people do not want our sons and daughters to go into this unauthorized war of choice, and I unequivocally oppose it.
Do you think she will ever hold public office again?
No, never. And this whole thing about war of choice. Well, what about Libya? What about Syria? What about Iraq, Afghanistan? I mean, we had a choice to go to those wars. It wasn't like someone was holding a gun to our head.
I like how you asked that question. I want to ask you a question. Okay? Be real with me for a moment.
Okay.
You think that a lot of the public, it's like there's certain third world countries that were just like, those are throwaway countries. And then there are other third world countries who are like, no, that's a serious country. In other words, and I sort of get this vibe that like when it comes like the American conscience, Libya is like, like they don't think about Libya nearly as much as they'll think about Iran. It's almost as if like
that doesn't make any sense, because anybody who knows anything knows that Libya under Gaddafi was actually doing quite well.
I'm simply saying.
I understand, but I'm saying that's just people that don't know anything. They because these are people that support anything that's against the U.S. That's all it is.
It wasn't Rosanna, but that was an Amelia Bedelia hair look that she was going with. Do you understand what I'm saying? Where people are basically like, you know, they don't think about Libya, they don't think about Ghana, they don't think about many of Yemen. There's certain countries that they never going to think about nearly as often as they're going to think about India, which is also a third world country, but like they just sort of like becomes more of something that this feels like America is engaging in, like that messing with them is like a more serious undertaking that is something that more Americans should feel troubled by than Libya. Kind of like, you know, when we had the whole Falkland Islands thing back in the 80s, it's like everyone's like, I don't know what the hell that is. So it's almost like that. And that was really more Great Britain that was involved there. But
Grenada happened when
Grenada
Reagan decided that and actually Grenada was not U.S. territory; it was British territory. But for whatever reason, because Cuba was supposedly involved, Reagan just says, "We're going to take care of this." Didn't even tell Britain that we were sending people until after it was already going on.
Mm-hmm. I just feel as if like people don't look at these countries in nearly the same type of light. I don't know. So when you're saying Libya, what about the bombing of Libya? I'm like, I think people sort of look at that as if that's like another Grenada. You know what I'm saying? Where they're like, that's not a real country. And they know it's a real country. It's not like, you know, the whole, not like it's not fake the way Australia is fake, but it's that they sort of look at it as if like, yeah, you know, if we go in there and decide to just basically take up residence there, they're not going to even think about stopping us. I don't know. That's just the vibe that I get when I hear people talking about these various countries, and that's why when you say, "Well, what about our attack on Libya?" They're like, "Come on, it's Libya." I don't know. That's just or Guam. Yeah, exactly. I tipped Guam over. That's a funny callback right there. I don't know. It's just a thought that I had. Brian Alex says, I'm waiting to be unburdened by Kamala. You're going to have a little bit of a wait there if you're hoping to be unburdened by Kamala, because she's not going to be helping unburden people for a while. I don't think she's ever going to win an election anywhere ever again. She might win somewhere in California if she's so inclined, but
I think she missed her shot. She should have ran this time if she wanted to be governor of California. Well,
yeah, you're probably right about that. You're probably right that if she was gonna run for governor, if she was gonna try and get anything, but I think she's deluded enough to believe that she has presidential aspirations in 2028. And Lord knows, I hope to hell she runs. I hope she runs.
But she can run. She's not. I don't think there's any way she survives a primary. I don't. I mean, and it's true. I do dread listening to her talk because, you know, she's no less grating than Laura Loomer is, arguably far more grating. But yeah, I really think that she's not anything to be afraid. I can't imagine how she wins because she's such an obvious joke that. Yeah, I can't really take her very seriously. So, anyhow, moving on. This next story came from my good friend here, Jim Satala, who shared this with me, and I have some thoughts on that. And this is about what's going on in Canada. So, here goes. Americans with Canadian grandparents, great-grandparents. So grandparents or even great-grandparents can now claim citizenship under expanded law. So, you know all those people always talking about how they're going to move to Canada?
Well, now a lot more of them are actually citizens of Canada. Millions of Americans are pursuing Canadian citizenship after a law that took effect in December made the process significantly easier for people with Canadian ancestry, prompting immigration lawyers on both sides of the border to report a surge in applications. This is just astonishing. Canadian Bill C-3, which went into effect December 15th, allows anyone born before that date to claim citizenship if they can prove they have a direct Canadian ancestor, a grandparent, great-grandparent, or even a more distant relative. Previously, Canadian citizenship by descent could only pass down one generation from parent to child. Under the new law, descendants of Canadians are already considered citizens and need only to apply for a certificate of citizenship to formalize their status. You're already a Canadian. Are you a Canadian now under this law?
I might be, actually.
Any of your great-grandparents Canadian citizens?
I think one great-grandparent was.
There you go. There you go. You can now become, you can just snap your fingers.
But I'm wondering here, doesn't this mean that if that was true, I could vote in Canadian elections?
Yes.
Couldn't that really swing the election? Couldn't that really screw them over big time if,
yes.
40 million Americans decide, yeah, we're not voting for you anymore?
Yes. You can vote for Poilievre.
Wow.
Oh my God. I'm like, this is a crazy, crazy law to pass. You have to be insane. Now, I'm wondering if someone signs up for citizenship, what that does to them tax-wise. But that's because,
they might have some weird thing. If you're a citizen, they can tax you wherever you are.
You have to think about the tax consequences.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I would recommend it. They'd be like, hey, you're a Canadian citizenship. You got to but you're Canadian and you're considered to be one your whole life, said immigration attorney Amandeep Hayer. Amandeep. Okay, I'm going to ask you this. Male or female?
Amandeep?
Or you
can be a man.
It's got to be?
A man. Yeah, it's not Amanda. It's Amandeep. So that's Amandeep.
Amandeep.
My name is Amandeep.
Amandeep?
My Amandeep error, and I come to tell you.
All right. Well, he's a man deep.
Machine is broken.
A man deep. I'm just gonna call him a man deep. A man deep Hayer who advocated for the law in the Parliament of Canada.
Oh my God, this might be fake. A man deep in hair. We Too Low. Remember that one with the pilot We Too Low? Something Wong. You remember that story that actually got played on the news? They got him, the Chinese pilots and stuff or whatever, with the pilots, like the plane crash or something like that.
Now we need to look up a man deep hair. A man deep. A man. It's a real person. Hair Law. That's him. Wow. A man. All right. There you go. There's a Mandeep Hayer. Okay. Well, anyhow. That's really what you're applying for, the recognition of a right you already have vested. Hayer, whose Vancouver, British Columbia area practice previously handled about 200 citizenship cases a year, said he's now fielding more than 20 consults per day. He estimated millions of Americans are Canadian descendants. Nicholas Burning, an immigration attorney at Boundary Bay Law in Bellingham, Washington, said his practice is pretty much flooded with this. We kind of shifted a lot of other work away in order to push these cases through, he said. American applicants cite different motivations for pursuing dual citizenship, though many pointed to President Trump's policies as a factor. A bunch of crazy liberals are going to be moving to Canada. Michelle Cunha of Bedford, Massachusetts, said she decided to move to Canada after reflecting on decades of political activism. I put in my best effort for 30 years. I've done everything I possibly can do to make the United States what it promises the world to be, a place of freedom, a place of equality, Cunha said. This also might be a fake name. But clearly, we're not there, and we're not going to get there anytime soon. I don't know. It looks like we're much closer to that than we've been in a long time. Maureen Sullivan of Naples, Florida, whose grandmother was Canadian, said she sees citizenship in Canada as a backup option. When I first heard about the bill, I couldn't believe it. It was like this little gift that fell in my lap, Sullivan said. There was kind of this collective excitement amongst the family who just felt like we wanted to feel like we were doing something to take care of our security in the future if needed.
How do you think you'd be more secure in Canada? We are the only protection Canada has, you idiots. Without us, Canada's done.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might surprise some folk with my take on this. I'm feeling like if you're an American citizen and you apply for citizenship to a second country, I don't care what that country is. That country could be Canada. It can be France, Ireland, Israel, Japan, China. You apply for citizenship in a second country that we basically say, go, your citizenship is revoked. I don't care if you're born here. I don't care if you're a 10th generation American. If the notion of having, what are you going to have, global citizens? Let's imagine that someone now is going to become a citizen of Canada. They can be a citizen of France, and just they're going to have global citizens. What the hell does that mean? I'm like, if you want to, I harbor a deep resentment towards people who basically start screaming about dual citizenship of a lot of people throw it at Jews that there's an automatic dual citizenship, which is obviously designed to be racist. But what I'm saying is, if someone of their own volition decides that they want to take up citizenship in a separate country, then go. That's fine. Enjoy. We wish you nothing but love and success. Maybe, and have a nice life. That's all right. And if you can't look at American citizenship as America is your home, and that you want it to be your home, if you can't appreciate the generous gifts that are afforded to you as part of being an American citizen, if you cannot appreciate that sufficiently that you feel you need to take up citizenship in a second country anywhere on the globe, send them there. Go. And I don't know why this is. I think that people. I think some people might be surprised to hear me say that, but I'm just like, why are we catering to people who basically can't decide? You can't dance at two weddings. You pick your wedding, and that's it. That's your home. You want it to be America. You're an American citizen. You want it to be America. Great. You want it to be a second country. Gay avec. Go. Gay, as my people would say, gay is into hate. Go in good health. So I'm just saying that's my thought. I don't know why it is. And it doesn't, and it's not like anything personal. It's a matter of just like, hey, and it could be someone wants to have this dual citizenship in Ireland. I don't care. Like, he's saying, can I go to Ireland just long enough to help them wipe out the money? What I'm saying is, why do we need to have, we have way too many people here already. There's countless people who are dying to become American citizens. You now feel your American citizenship is insufficient for you, that you need to find citizenship in another country. I'm not saying we should punish people who want to visit other countries. I'm not saying that you shouldn't love visiting other countries. You might enjoy being in Italy more than you enjoy being in America. That's totally fine. But as soon as you sign up that you say, I want to be a citizen of country B, well, then that's fine. Go. And I'm not even saying that the application alone would warrant kicking them out. But yeah, once that application is processed and it's granted to you, they say it's like a $55 fee you got to pay, or 75 fake Canadian dollars to become a Canadian citizen. Once it gets processed and they say, congratulations, you're a Canadian. So America should be saying to them, congratulations, have a nice life, get out of here. It's like I don't have patience. I'm so sick of Americans who have so little appreciation for one of the most significant privileges that any human can possibly have. If I had to rank, we talk about people having it was 5 years ago, everyone was continually talking about white privilege, which was a complete and total joke. But I've always said there are certain privileges which are genuine privileges. Two-parent privileges, that's a privilege. Pretty privilege, that is a privilege. And American privilege, that is a privilege. Those are three huge, huge, huge privileges. Wealth privilege is a privilege. These are real privileges. That if someone is born with those blessings, that they have genuine privileges. And the American privilege is the one that Americans of all people tend to appreciate far too little. That we don't have enough of a significant appreciation. We don't appreciate how much freer we are than any other country. And people think, oh, it's better in Norway, it's better in Germany, it's better in France, it's better in Canada, it's better in Australia. Nope, 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 nope. No, the only reason you think that is because the speaking of the tone of rhetoric that's going on in these countries is something that you align with and you agree with. But as soon as you disagree with them, you will find out that they are not nearly as free as you are. Just look at the people who are being thrown in prison in the UK for posting on Facebook. Imagine some horrific thing like that ever happening. The very free country of Great Britain, where they're throwing people in Facebook jail, or Australia, where it's like one person on the continent has COVID and they go into lockdown that no one can leave their house for God knows how long. I think they had that in the Far East also, in some of these, very, very, very well organized countries where people are screaming frantically as they were locked in their. You heard the screams of horror, people who were locked in their own apartments for weeks on end. And you want to sit here telling me that your American citizenship is not good enough for you? With all the social services that we have, that we basically say, hey, we're going to take care of your housing, your education, your food, and you're telling me, and we're going to give you freedoms that no one else is even pretending to give you. I understand there's a lot of things about this country that stink. There's a lot of changes that I would love to implement. When one day when I'm unanimously, when they invent a brand new position of Master of America. And I'm unanimously elected to that position. There's a whole bunch of sweeping changes that I plan on implementing on that day. But that being said, even before we reach that day, living here in this country is in fact one of the greatest privileges you are living like a king, better than kings have lived historically for countless millennia. You have more wealth, you have more comforts, you have more basic necessities that are provided for, and incredibly higher levels of opportunity that do not exist anywhere else on the planet. And you're sitting here complaining, saying, I want to become a Canadian citizen. Adios! Bonsoir, my frère. Go.
Well, I was thinking more of the people that don't want to be a Canadian citizen, but if they're going to screw themselves like this and allow other people to vote in their elections and tip it, I think that'd be funny.
I do think that would be funny, I do, but it's like I take affront as an American. I take affront. It's like you don't want. It's like you feel you need to have another country citizenship. Like, how ungrateful are you? What's wrong with you? Sad. It's sad. These people have very empty, miserable lives. Yeah, that's the way to phrase it. Be gone with you. Be gone. So, yeah, I saw that all these people very excited about potentially becoming Canadian citizens. As they say here, the application fee is 75 monopoly Canadian dollars, or you can exchange or give you can give them Waterworks and Illinois Avenue, and or 55 real dollars, and cost increase for those hiring an attorney or genealogist. Kind of estimated her total cost using an attorney will be around $6,500. You're investing $6,000 to become part of that socialist hellhole, freezer zone hellhole. What's wrong with you? Stupid. Go, Miss Kanha, go. And I don't feel animus. I just sort of feel like I feel like revolted. It's not like even anger. It's just I feel anger with the concept and revulsion with the individual, if that makes sense.
Remember that scene in Tombstone when Powers Booth is sitting there and Wyatt Earp comes up to tell him they're leaving and he just goes, well, bye.
That was in what?
Tombstone. Powers Booth.
I saw that recently.
And he's sitting in the chair. He played Curly Bill in Tombstone, and Kurt Russell played Wyatt Earp. He comes up and he's like, after
I saw that recently. The movie ends. The movie ends with him visiting him in the hospital.
Doc Holliday in the hospital.
Doc Holliday,
not Powers Booth. Doc Holliday was played by Val Kilmer. Powers Booth is the black-haired guy. Sean Bean played the other guy, Johnny Lightning, or something like that. But anyway, he's like sitting there on the chair, and he comes walking up as he's leaving with his brothers. And he's just like, it's a meme that's all over the internet. Like people post all the time. He's just sitting there, he's wearing a red shirt and everything. He just goes, "Well, bye."
Co-host Shane asked, Joe, what are your thoughts on military members who marry foreign nationals? So there, I'm actually a little bit more, I'm a little bit more sympathetic to our military. You station someone thousands of miles away on a different continent and leave them there for months, years on end, and they end up forming some sort of relationship with one of the locals. I actually have a lot more sympathy for that. Like, I don't think I sort of like, what are you asking of them? They're humans, and they have a need for companionship and relationship. And I think that the idea of creating some way of affording them leeway is recognizing their humanity. So I don't think that that's a terrible thing at all. We need to not be, I would avoid being judgmental in that type of scenario as much as possible. Now, if they're consorting with the enemy, that's a completely different thing, and I think that we have to be a little bit careful just to make sure that they're not exposing us, that they're not being honeypotted and basically bringing in someone who's a potential hazard to America. But I would try to find ways to be accommodating to our military who are away. But it would really obviously be case by case specific. JH saying 1/5 of the judges in DC have dual citizenship. Talk to Brank about this. He just loves it. It's horrible. It's horrible. That's another thing. You want to become an American citizen. Front and center, that is abdication of your old country. Like, you cannot become an American citizen. That should be something that's basic. You can't pledge fealty to two different sovereignties. It's really, how crazy is it? You think historically, if any monarch ever would have been okay with that, yes, you're pledging fealty to me and to my enemy who lives 300 miles away. Well, let's face it, they would have said kilometers. But you think anyone would be like, oh, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. I got no problem with that at all. Of course not. That's ridiculous.
What's that old saying? No one can serve two masters.
You cannot serve, exactly. You cannot serve two masters. You must choose. You must. And if you are not sufficiently comfortable with America being your master, that you need to basically take up with a different country. Okay. And as soon as they accept you, we should have every right to kick you out and revoke whatever citizenship you have here. You're not ours anymore. You chose. I am a very big believer. I think that that perfect justice, this is in general, and this has very, very broad application, what I'm about to tell you. Perfect justice and the most comfortable way to deal with other humans in society is to allow people to decide how you're going to deal with them. How, in general, when I'm meeting new people, we're going to go a little bit. We're gonna go a little bit into the humanities that I tend to save for viewers' discretion. The best way to deal with people, I have found that I've been circling the sun for a number of days now, and what I have found to be the case, and it's not my own inspiration, really, this comes from Torah teachings, as pretty much anything you're going to hear from me on morality and healthy living is going to come. The best way to deal with people is to let them decide how you're going to deal with them. You start off in a place of giving them grace and saying, I'm going to assume that people are good and moral and treat them as if they're good and moral. And I'm going to treat them with kindliness. And I'm going to try and be as hospitable as I possibly can. I'm going to try and extend myself as much as possible. But when you see that people are making a choice to not respect you properly, and I don't mean that they have to be like, serving you, but they're basically purposefully disrespecting you, or they're acting in a way that is malicious, contemptible, lacking in morality or integrity, then the onus becomes on you to respond appropriately, to respond in kind. So, and you're a fool if you don't approach them from that perspective. And that's why when it comes to this American citizenship thing, I'm like, look, I'm not trying to chase you out of the country. You're an American citizen. You want to stay here. That's fine. When you make a choice, that choice has consequences. It's not just you get the benefits that you get to be like, oh, I'm going to have my cake on Tuesdays, and I'm going to have my crullers in France on Thursdays, and then I'm going to go up and have my Canadian bacon on Sundays. This is not the way life works. I mean, you can sit there and go to a fancy restaurant and pay for that, but I'm saying is that you want to basically choose who you are. There are consequences that come with that. So I think that people should have the freedom to make choices, and you should have the freedom to make choices, but those choices should have consequences. You cannot serve two masters, as we said. You can't dance at two weddings. You have to choose. And once you make that choice, then most decisions flow from your choice. You make a choice, and now what flows from there are results and repercussions should flow from that. And that's why when someone makes this choice, I'm just like, okay, all right, okay. It was nice knowing you. Well, sell your house. These people make me sick. Dual citizenship judges. Are you kidding me? Well, what if we go to war with your country? So now, doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense. Gets me very, very upset. Where are we at? I think that's all I had on this particular topic.
Yeah, it wasn't very much on it. Really, it was just a throwaway thing. Like, oh, look what they did.
Yeah. I'm not landing the plane. We're just barely getting started, Tony. We're just barely getting started. You kidding me? The next story up over here that I have is the U.S. Postal Service. I wanted to.
Fresh person. We had a lot of.
I hear something I don't want
to. No, they.
I heard it too. It was Trump.
It was Trump. Yeah, it was this link that I popped over. I just don't trust. I don't trust Fox News. I hate them. I was trying to see how Fox News works when it's on Brave, like if it's less annoying. All right. Let's go to the U.S. Postal Service story that I wanted to cover for you all. We'll move onward. 37 Senate Democrats urged the U.S. Postal Service to refuse Trump's vote-by-mail executive order. Okay. Now, you may recall, we covered it here on this show, that Donald Trump signed an executive order, which was basically explaining how he's compelling states to turn over their registration information so that they can get so
they can check to see if there's illegal aliens or anybody voting or people that shouldn't be voting on them.
Right. And to just make sure that the states' voter rolls for their federal elections are clean and that they only have legal citizens voting in their federal elections. And they said, if you don't do it, because you can't technically force them to it, well, I'm not going to let you use the U.S. Postal Service for your mail-in ballots.
No, I thought this was different.
And he also said that they're going to have a special barcode.
Yeah, like I thought that's what he said, that the post office, is the post office part of the executive branch?
Yeah.
Or is it completely, so if it's part of the executive branch, the president can tell them, well, I want you to do this. And basically all he's saying is, I just want you to check against this website to say that these people are actually U.S. citizens. And if they're not U.S. citizens, you can't deliver them a ballot.
I think he actually, one of his appointments is Postmaster General, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's what I'm saying, is that would probably be constitutional to say, well, no, because technically they can't get a ballot if they're not illegal aliens. So I'm barring the post office from delivering ballots to illegal aliens.
Yeah.
Or non-citizens, whatever.
This was a really intelligent approach to mail-in ballots and the problem of the fraudulent thing. Now they could try to circumvent it by using private carriers, but what they're using,
I don't think it's allowed with private carriers. The law is
right now. Well, a state could say we do allow UPS, right? They could allow FedEx. They could provide, some sort of some sort of third-party carrier service to deliver it and say, we're accepting that, and states have a plenary authority over their elections. But, well, I'll get into that more as we cover this story and statements from Chuck Schumer.
Especially because of the headline, where they're not saying, oh, we're going to sue and stop this. They're saying, hey, post office, don't do this. Please ignore him.
Yeah. Well, there's a suit going on. There's a suit as soon as he issued the executive order. You knew there was going to be a suit. Under the order by postal, so there's 37 Senate Democrats urging the Post Service to refuse Trump's vote by mail executive order. Under the order, the Post Service would be prohibited from transmitting mail-in or absentee ballots to any voter not enrolled on the state's eligibility list. All right. 37 Senate Democrats sent a letter on Monday. We're going to look. How long is that letter? I haven't read the letter yet. 6 pages.
That's pretty long.
Oh no, it's only 2 pages. It's just a bunch of signatures. All right, that's something I may get to. Okay, so 37 Senate Democrats sent a letter Monday to the U.S. Postal Service Board of Governors calling on the agency to refuse to implement a March 31st executive order that directs the USPS to use state submitted lists to determine which voters may receive mail-in and absentee ballots. The order specifically mentions U.S. citizenship as a key element for eligibility. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer led the effort alongside 3 ranking committee members, Senator Gary Peters, someone no one ever heard of from Michigan, ranking member of the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, Senator Alex Padilla from California, and ranking member of the Senate Rules and Administration Committee and Senator Dick Durbin, ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. What?
I've met him.
Dick Durbin?
Yes, I actually spoke to him.
I always assumed he had bad breath.
He's a real jerk.
Is he?
Yeah.
All right. Executive Order 14399, signed March 31st by President Donald Trump, directs the Postmaster General to initiate a rulemaking within 60 days establishing uniform standards for mail-in and absentee ballot processing. Under the order, the USPS would be prohibited from transmitting mail-in or absentee ballots to any voter not enrolled on a state-submitted eligibility list, which the order calls a mail-in and absentee participation list, meaning that the states would basically have to give to the post office a list of eligible voters, which they obviously don't want to give up, and that way we can check and see if they're actually U.S. citizens and whether or not they should be sending in their votes by mail. A final rule must be issued within 120 days of signing. The order also directs the DHS to compile federal citizenship records into state-by-state voter eligibility lists drawn from Social Security Administration and immigration databases and transmit those lists to state election officials at least 60 days before each federal election. So DHS basically is supposed to go to the state of Washington and say, hey, here's a list of all your eligible voters, and compile that. And basically, and then they can cross-reference it with the people who are actually registered to vote in the state of Washington. State of Washington, being a leftist state, obviously doesn't want to have to comply with that. They're like, oh, we want to recognize whoever the hell we want to recognize as being eligible to vote in our federal elections. So the senators argued that the order unconstitutionally transfers authority over federal elections to the executive branch, noting that the Constitution vests authority over the times, places, and manner of federal elections with the states, subject to alteration by Congress. Quote, the Constitution provides no role for the president in regulating federal elections, the Democratic senators wrote, and no statute delegates to the president any authority to regulate elections or voter eligibility either, including via USPS.
Isn't there already a law against?
By issuing the executive order, however, the president is attempting to unconstitutionally consolidate power to personally regulate American elections.
I don't agree with that, because there's already a law that makes it illegal for unqualified people to vote. So all he's doing is guaranteeing that unqualified people don't vote. It's already against the law. There's a crime. It's a crime.
I agree with you. I agree with you. He's executing the laws of the
he's faithfully executing the laws of the United States.
Yeah,
he's faithfully take care to do that.
Yeah, it's his duty. He is doing his job here. This is his job. This is how he's faithfully executing it, and he's using the levers of power that fall under his domain, specifically the United States Postal Service, which is part of the federal government.
I think he might actually win this.
He will win this.
Okay.
And under the law, he will win this. I've been feeling much more emboldened in my prediction making. Okay, I made a prediction earlier today, which I touched on yesterday. On X earlier today, I made a prediction about the Virginia redistricting maps, and what I specifically said and stand by this is in 2026, Virginia will use the same maps that they used in 2024. Those new maps are not going to come into play in 2026. That is my prediction for the state of Virginia. That those redistricting maps are not going to clear the legal, and the logic behind that is that they're not going to clear the legal hurdles that it's facing, and it's facing serious legal hurdles. So I don't care what those election results they had earlier this week on Tuesday. Those maps are not going into effect for the 2026 election. That's my prediction there. I'm standing by it, and you can hold me accountable for it. This is when we'll know whether or not my prediction holds up within the next 3 or 4 months, because they're going to have to start sending out their ballots at that point, and Virginians will start seeing which map.
Well, they would have to have primaries, so the primaries have to happen first.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think, and the reason I feel very confident in that regard is because I don't think they have the time. I don't think they have the time. I think the way they did it is deeply flawed from a legal perspective. I don't think that the Virginia Supreme Court is going to be able to ignore the countless problems they had with it. And even if they somehow do it, I don't see how they're going to timing.
It could still be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, though, too, after.
Theoretically, I think that it's. I think that they're going to have serious problems getting this implemented in time.
Well, so no, I'm saying, like, even if the Virginia Supreme Court says, yeah, but whatever, whatever, they could still take it to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the U.S. Supreme Court,
they ignore their Virginia, basically, if they say we're willing to rewrite the Virginia state constitution, and because that's what's happening here, is they're changing the Virginia state constitution. And so the question is, Supreme Court have a right to weigh in on that and say, no, you can't change the Virginia state constitution. In theory, deprivation of basic liberties could happen. It could happen. I just think there's so many hurdles. If you're sitting there on the Democrat side praying for this thing to fly, you need so many miracles to happen in quick succession in order for this to actually go into effect, that I am confidently making the prediction that these maps are not going to go into effect for the 2026 midterms. Will they be able to sort it out for 2028? Very possibly. Very possibly. I don't know. That I'm not going to make a prediction on. But in 2026, they're not going to get those maps in. That's my first prediction today. The second prediction I'm making is that when this thing is tested, this will pass muster, that everything Trump is doing here is legal. That being said, that doesn't mean that the Postmaster General is going to properly effectuate it. Postmaster General is one person who obviously has countless folks working underneath him, who many of whom may be your classic rhinos or leftists who have no interest in doing a proper job in actually vetting the mail to ensure that it's being handled properly. So
the vast majority of people that work for the post office are Democrats, because they support the government and they want more government benefits, more government pay. They vote Democrat. That's why Virginia goes the way it does. That's why all around DC it's like that way.
And you might even recall in 2020 when we saw all those ballots that were being thrown in those ballots from Republican areas that were being thrown in the garbage, which is what led a lot of MAGA to say, do not vote by mail because we can't trust the post office. So all of those concerns we had about voting by mail, that should be concerns we have about these ballots being processed. If, despite assurances in the Postmaster General that he's going to do everything he possibly can to comport with this executive order. So even if the executive order is legal and is binding, and you have a Postmaster General who presumably is willing to help effectuate it because he was appointed by Donald Trump, that doesn't mean that they're going to be successful in actually ensuring that it gets done. Now, you would think that with some cursory inspections during election season, they can see whether or not it's happening. But now you start running into some other problems. And here's some of the problems that I want to sort of just like look ahead to how things may unfold in the future. All right, let's think this through. So you're the state of California and you send out your ballots by mail. And Trump says they're not going to be delivered because you haven't comported with us. So we can't be sure that any of these ballots by mail are proper. Right? Now, what ends up happening is you have countless random Californians who put their mail in their mailbox and try and send it back as their form of voting. Then you're going to basically have California come along and say, now you're going to disenfranchise these voters. They all think they voted and we're never going to get their ballots because Trump doesn't want to let his postmaster general, process these things. Like, what are we going to do? What are we supposed to do with this now? We need to get those ballots. They think they voted. We're not able to get their ballots because Trump is trying to disenfranchise voters and not enable these votes to come in here. So now what you have here is a situation where Trump is technically right, but his hand gets forced somewhat by a state saying, well, we're doing vote by mail. And now you have courts that are basically going to be put under pressure. In that scenario, you can see where judges will be like, well, I don't want people to be disenfranchised from voting just because, they were deceived by Gavin Newsom to thinking that this is a viable way to get it done. So what happens at that point? Like if you're sitting there as a judge in that scenario, so now you're in a very tough spot because you sort of feel as if you got a lot of lay people who don't understand anything about this conflict between Newsom and the federal government, and they're trying to vote and they're not doing anything wrong, and now their votes are not going to be counted. So I can see there being all sorts of tension in our judiciary between courts saying that Trump's law his executive order is valid and binding, and lower courts basically feeling a reluctance to potentially disenfranchise voters by saying that now that California has actually sent it out, that I'm gonna tell the post office that it's totally fine for them to hold it and not deliver it. So I can see this being a headache. So I want to be careful when I'm issuing this prediction. My prediction is that this will be recognized as far as being a valid law and a valid executive order and under his authority, but I can also see that it may not work because you may have different factions of the post office, which will basically be coming out and saying, hey, screw Trump, I hate him. Or you might have various judges who are feeling pressure that once states on the West Coast, the East Coast, the Northeast, the whatever, are sending things out by mail, that they might feel a pressure to say, hey, I don't want these voters who are caught in the middle here to not have their ballots counted. So I'm going to direct the post office, irrespective of the executive order, to send it on. Now that raises all sorts of other questions as to how the hell can they disregard a scenario here where the Supreme Court in theory is saying it's a valid EO. And now they're saying, well, even though it's a valid EO, disregard the EO. It's a very quirky situation that you can see if you're sort of looking ahead to how events are likely to unfold. You can sort of see the collision course that we're headed toward as we get into the summer and election season.
Here's a question for you, Joe. You've moved before, right? And gone to the post office to a change of address, right?
Yeah.
All right. They only it's like a year, I think, or whatever they do it. And then after that time, it's basically they just ignore it, and anything that comes ends up going to that original address anyway. That's why a lot of, I would say, ballots are gone to places where people don't live anymore. People say, I got all these ballots, like in California. This guy said, I got 17 ballots in my house. These people haven't lived here in 10 years or whatever.
15 years,
15 years, whatever. Could he order the post office to say anybody's ballot that goes to an address where you previously had a change of address and it's just expired, you can't send it there. You got to send it back.
How would you enforce that?
Well, they would just tell the post office. It would have to be somehow, because they know everything is. A lot of people don't know. Every piece of mail you get now is scanned. They take a picture of it. Every piece of mail. It's all digital.
Really?
Yes. You could get, like, every day I get a thing. It tells me what mail's coming. I see pictures of it.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I was unaware of it.
Called informed delivery. But they do it for everybody. But you can. That's what I'm saying. It's everything when it goes through. It's just it's all pictures taken. I don't know how long they keep it for or anything like that. I think that's how they track all mails tracked. So that way, if I think they started doing that because of when people's mail, when the carrier would get the mail and throw it away. So that way, if your mail doesn't come that day, you can make a complaint and say, where is it? And they can go find the carrier. Where's the mail?
Wow. We've had major advances in our postal service.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a few years they've had that. So I don't know when it started or whatever, but I think that's probably why it came about, because of people complaining they didn't get their mail.
Mm-hmm. So now formalize your question for me.
Could the president order the post office to not deliver a ballot addressed to a person that you couldn't just say don't deliver it to a person if you don't have a register, have them that they're living there. But if you had a previous change of address where they changed their address and forwarded their mail and it just expired, the post office knows that this existed. They just only forward it for so long. They have a forwarding thing for so long, but they would be able to check that and say, like, yeah, this guy had a change of address 10 years ago. He hasn't lived there in 10 years.
So my question is, if they had a change of address 10 years ago, so would they get a regular piece of mail that I sent there? Let's imagine you moved. Let's say, have you
right now? Yeah,
if
you would. If it doesn't matter. Like if somebody, like whoever, say you've lived in your house for 5 years. If right now,
if you sent me mail to the address I lived in 20 years ago, it would get delivered there.
Correct.
And would not get forwarded to me, obviously, because it's more than a year.
The system only tracks it for a year, I believe.
Yeah. So in theory, you would think that Trump could try to circumvent this problem by basically saying don't, or cut off the magnitude of this problem by basically saying don't deliver to dead spots any mail that, like,
I mean, he could maybe even order him like don't deliver ballots to places that aren't homes.
Yeah, that's another way that Trump might try to stop this. Let's try and game plan this out, right? If you're Donald Trump, we're now playing the role of strategist for Donald Trump. The key thing would be to basically not process the mail on behalf of the state when the state sends it out in the first place. Instead of waiting for it to get to these people, you basically say, no, California, you're trying to send out these ballots by mail. We're not letting them go through by mail. So forget about people voting, and now they won't be able to come back in and say, hey, what about all these poor people who dropped in the mail and think it's going to be delivered? Instead of doing that, you'd be like, no, don't worry, we're holding all that mail. We're not delivering any of it. So John Smith, who's living at 32 Cuyahoga Lane in Los Angeles, isn't getting it.
I think there's a problem, and this might just be a minor problem, but the problem with that would be that I believe Congress has established that they don't even have to pay for ballots.
Okay.
So that might, that the states don't have to pay. I think that they don't have to pay for ballots.
What is that? What is
that would mean Congress authorized states to send ballots through the mail. So there's no way he could just say you can't send the ballots through the mail.
Oh, well, under the EO, if the EO is valid, then why can't he do that? I think that might save him the headache of, and let's be reasonable here also, right? Let's imagine you have John Smith, who's a genuine American citizen who normally votes by mail, right? Or who's sitting at home and is planning on voting in this election. So he basically would, you don't want him to drop his mail in the ballot, in the mailbox, think it's being delivered, forget about it, and think he's voted, when in actuality it's never reaching the state. Like, you don't want him to be in that position, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not like he's a woman. So that all tells us that the safest way to do this is to, that was a joke, by the way. The safest way to do this is to basically say, make sure he never gets that ballot in the mail in the first place. So if he wants to vote, he's going to have to go down there and vote. I think that's a way to do it. Is you basically say, look, state of California, any mail that's being sent by the state to any person in the state of California, we're just not going to deliver those. No, we're not delivering that at all.
There was a good question in the chat, which is a good question. Could he tell this post office that treat all ballots as registered mail? You have to get a signature of the person who received them.
He hasn't done that yet. I mean,
Yeah, but
could he in theory do that? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you would think it's possible. It seems like it's the sort of thing that's under his purview. It's an interesting question.
I mean, I don't know if that would stop what that would stop, but it might show you that, oh, well, this one guy signed for 40.
Well, that would stop. That would, in theory, stop you from having mail being delivered to a dead address. But yeah, I think it's much safer to just say, look, these states, they didn't comply, so we're not letting their mail out ballots to reach their intended victim, their intended voters.
What do you think is going to happen with the case about you think the Supreme Court's going to rule that it's election day and it has to be done by election day?
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. I think there's a really good chance that the election day thing is gonna hold up. I'd be surprised if it doesn't. So, yeah. Let me just check if anything else is going on here. Can we require that Uzelian asks, can we require them to renounce their U.S. citizenship if they seek Canadian or other citizenship? I would say to you, I'd like to see that. I don't know if there's an existing statute to that effect, but I'm saying is that's why I said when I'm declared master of America and not confined to the limitations the constitutional limitations. And when that day happens, that I'm unanimously decided to be master of America, and I'm not conscripted by the Constitution. I think at that point in time, I will implement that, and I'll take all your other recommendations. If any of you have recommendations as to what changes you'd like me to effectuate on that day when I am unanimously voted by every American to be master of America, I will take your suggestions very, very seriously and consider whether or not.
I put one of my suggestions for what you can implement in the private chat.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did I miss that in the private chat? I gotta take the dog out, be back in 5?
No, but under that. That was before the show started.
Chip Roy files bill to denaturalize, deport Islamists and Marxists.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to work legally. In fact,
I don't know. It sounds good. If you didn't have to worry about the Constitution, you could implement it.
I think that's already been decided to be unconstitutional by the court. Like they already said, you can't punish people for being communists, having communist beliefs. So
I thought they excluded communists. I thought they excluded communists from the Civil Rights Act.
What the heck is this? Outgoing U.S. Representative Chip Roy from Texas on Monday introduced a bill to denaturalize and deport individuals he argues are Marxists and Islamists, including the mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, after which the bill is named. The Measures Against Marxism, Dangerous Adherents, and Notorious Islamists, Mamdani Act, would amend the Immigration Nationality Act to limit alien eligibility for admission and naturalization to enable deportation and denaturalization for any membership, affiliation, or advocacy of socialist, communist, Chinese, communist, Marxist, or Islamic fundamentalist doctrines, and for other purposes. According to the bill language, the law already includes communist or totalitarian, I don't know why I was struggling with that word, totalitarian parties or subdivisions or affiliates of a domestic or foreign entity. The bill would amend Section 212 of the law to include the Chinese Communist Party, Communist Party, Socialist Party, Islamic Fundamentalist Party, or any other totalitarian party. It also includes alien advocacy for socialist, communist, Chinese, communist, Marxist, or Islamic fundamentalist forms of government as conditions for denaturalization and deportation. I'm all on board here. I'm all on board. The bill, which is not expected to pass the House or Senate, also would amend the law to deny U.S. citizenship or entry to any non-citizen who's a member of a socialist, communist, CCP, Islamic fundamentalist, or advocates for any of the foregoing. Why do we continue to import people who hate us, Roy asked in a press release announcing the bill, not just for the last 6 years, but for the last 60 years. Our immigration system has been cynically used to disadvantage American workers' competitiveness in favor of mass import in the third world. This has not just led to higher crime and lower wages, but also the promulgation of hostile ideologies fundamentally opposed to American values. The bill deploys new tools to fight back against the Marxist and Islamist advance that has devastated Europe and has now arrived at our doorstep, especially in my home state of Texas. Last year, Roy launched a new Sharia-Free America caucus in the U.S. House, arguing doing so is necessary to counter the alarming rise of Sharia law in the United States. Sharia is a dominating force that's not compatible with the U.S. Constitution, the Center Square reported. Well, yeah, but it's nice to sort of dream about these things. This seems far less likely than maybe being unanimously voted master of America.
I think he's doing that. He put it forward because he's running for Texas Attorney General, so he probably put this bill forward. Like, look what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're saying.
I mean, you'd think it would be a no-brainer, but then again, I think a lot of the problem is that most of the Democrats are now communists. So,
yeah, I'm not seeing them going along with this. It's nice in theory. I just don't think it's possibly at all going to happen. John Delane saying, what about if you file W-2, you can request a ballot to file and hire a recommendation for your representation via taxation? I like it. You can request a ballot to file a higher recommendation for your representation. That
you don't file a W-2, you file a W-4, don't you? Or a 1090 or whatever it is, or
1099.
Yeah, something or like the form. The W-2 is what you get from the employer.
Right. Right.
I'm being pedantic. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But when he's saying a higher recommendation, I'm not sure what he means by that. So I think he typoed in this somewhere.
Maybe.
I'm not sure if he means higher spelled H-I-G-H-E-R. I'm not even sure what he means here. File a higher recommendation.
Oh, what he's saying, then you send
a recommendation of who to hire. File a higher recommendation for your representation. Oh, in other words, for your representation via taxation. Oh, instead of taxation, no taxation without representation. It's like, now that you're taxing me and I'm paying my taxes, so I'm recommending who you need to hire. That'd be funny, actually. That's how I'm interpreting. So in other words, when I file my taxes, let me give them a higher recommendation for who they should hire, and that way we'd have representation through taxation. That's how I'm understanding it.
Okay.
I don't think he's serious. I think he's making a joke. I'm reading it as a joke. Yes, I agree with you, Kimmy. The USPS is subject to executive authority. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So, yeah, I think that these senators who are complaining about this, should we look at the letter they wrote?
Sure.
So we said we might look at it, and we got a minute. All right. This is their letter. From the Democrats. Dear Chairwoman McReynolds, it's a chairwoman, it's not a Postmaster General, is a woman. Vice Chairman Khan, Governor Stroman, Governor Tangerlini, Postmaster General Steiner. Also says chairwoman, and this is the.
They're saying there's a board of governors of the Postal Service. Which why do we have a board of governors? It just seems like more money we're paying people for no reason.
We write regarding an alarming development related to election mail-in American democracy. It's about democracy! On March 31st, President Trump issued an executive order that seeks to transform the United States Postal Service into an election administration agency with the power to determine who can vote by mail and who can establish a ballot specifications. No, it's a matter of making sure that our mail is not being used to commit fraud. You know, the United States Congress passed a whole bunch of wire fraud. You can't use federal agency to commit fraud, and this is fraudulent election.
It definitely would be mail fraud.
Yeah, it's mail fraud. You're saying that you have a right to vote and you don't. The executive order is a blatant violation of the Constitution and statutes governing postal operations. We demand you follow the law and not implement this executive order. I think they have to follow the law and follow the order. The right to vote is the most sacred and cherished right of the American people that we want to give out to as many non-Americans as possible. The bedrock of American democracy. Oh, stop with your stupid whining about democracy. And that's another thing I posted out today. Virginia today, this week, showed us just how evil democracy is. Because they basically said, we're going to get 50.7% of our people, and they're going to give them the power to tell the other 49%, sorry, we're taking 10 out of 11 representatives. Like that is two wolves devouring the sheep. You're 49%, but in Congress, we're going to let you have only 9%. How the hell is that? That's not considered. That's the most evil form. That is the proof that democracy is evil. That we're going to use a pure democracy, the majority of our populace here, and say that since there's a handful more, assuming that the elections were not rigged, that there's a handful more here who agree that we want to take your power, that we're now going to strip you of representation. That is the two wolves devouring the one sheep, taking away that they have 40% less voting power in the House than they should have. It's disgusting. The framers of our Constitution understood this and accordingly vested the primary authority to regulate the times, places, and manner of federal elections with the states subject to alterations and statutes enacted by Congress. Here's where they're getting confused. And purposefully, I don't think they're really confused. I think they know what a stupid argument that they're making. But in case some of you or others who might one day watch this are confused and think, hey, yeah, they do have the power to control time, place, and matter. That's true. That's true. That's expressed in the Constitution, that states have the plenary authority, meaning that they alone hold all the cards as to how they're going to vote. Well, let's say they decide that we're going to vote by Starlink. Can they force this? Like, that's what they decide they want to do. We want to have vote by Starlink. So everyone wants to vote. Does that mean Elon Musk has to allow them to vote? No. Well, in this context, they're saying we decide we want to vote by the federal mail. Do they have authority over the federal mail? No. They have no more authority over the federal mail than they have over Starlink. The federal mail is not under their purview. They can decide how they want to do it, but if they opt for a method that is dependent on a third party, and in this context, the federal government and the United States Postal Service is a third party, in that case, you don't have authority over them. So go figure out a different way to hold your elections. Just don't try using the federal government's, a branch of the federal government in the form of the United States Postal Service. So this is such a stupid argument. This is such a bad faith. Wow, only an idiot would think that this argument makes any sense. And that's why I don't assume that my enemies are idiots. I think that they're just trying to say something that sounds sympathetic. And you can see it with the ridiculous cries about bedrock of American democracy, as if this is like, this is now so super duper important. They write like a bunch of 10th graders here, but it's a bedrock of democracy. So yeah, this too over here is a joke. This argument is silly. The Constitution similarly vests the authority to determine the eligibility of voters with the states. Well, not entirely. Not entirely. That's for your own personal state elections. That's not for federal elections. Constitution provides no role for the president in regulating federal elections. He has a role in executing our laws faithfully. And no statute delegates to the president any authority to regulate elections or voter eligibility, either, including via USPS.
He's regulating fraud, not the election.
Yeah, he's regulating fraud. By issuing the executive order, however, the president is attempting to unconstitutionally consolidate power to personally regulate American elections. He's looking to make sure there's no fraud. And I think that sounds like actually what he's supposed to do. I would say he's being neglectful in his duties if he failed to do that. Specifically, the order directs USPS to conduct a rulemaking to establish specifications for election mail and create and maintain a postal service mail-in absentee participation list. Remarkably, the order prohibits the delivery of absentee ballots from individuals that are not in the USPS absentee voter list. It's not remarkably, that's the whole point. These directives clearly infringe on the states and Congress's constitutional role to regulate the manner in which the federal elections are held and would deny eligible voters their ability to cast a ballot. Well, you know what? The way to avoid that is comply. It gave you a way to get access to it. The prohibition on transmitting ballots from individuals not on the absentee voter list Act is a ban on vote by mail. No, it's not. You can have vote by mail. You just got to give the USPS a list of who your registered recipients are. Oh, sorry. For any state unwilling to share its absentee voter list with USPS, or any voter who happens to be excluded from the list. Well, why are you not complying? Whether to transmit a voter's absentee ballots to election officials, granting USPS the ability to disenfranchise American voters. Not disenfranchised, they can still go to the local precinct and cast a ballot themselves. Were the Postal Service to issue such a regulation, it would be flagrantly illegal and unconstitutional attempt to regulate federal elections and would disenfranchise voters. I don't think that's true either. As you know, the president does not possess the power to manage the operations of the Postal Service. Really? Or direct USPS or the Postmaster General to enact these requirements of rules. Really? That's interesting. Let's hear this argument. Maybe this one's better. In 1970, when Congress reorganized the Post Office Department into the now USPS, it created an independent establishment of the executive branch and bestowed the postal power on the Board of Governors of the Postal Service, not the president.
Oh, I don't see how the Congress can do that.
Okay, so now this is an interesting thing. You were asking the question, why do we have a Board of Governors? They're telling you the answer, and they're saying that that's significant in this particular moment because they're saying that now it's not under the purview of the President of the United States, but it's under this separate independent group.
Which branch of government is that again?
I don't know how that works.
Did they change the Constitution to create this other fourth branch of government that I haven't heard of?
Apparently. This independence is a hallmark of the Postal Service and operations. I don't know what that means. It's the hallmark. Why is that the hallmark? What makes this the hallmark? I think they just like the word because they think it sounds powerful. Similarly, it is universally understood that the Postal Service does not regulate or administer American elections. As the Postal Service acknowledged in a rulemaking just last year, the Postal Service does not administer elections, establish rules or deadlines that govern elections, or determine whether or how elections jurisdictions utilize the mail. As the Postal Service has stated, they do not advocate for particular forms of voting and simply serve to collect and transport the mail to its destination, including election mail. This neutral and apolitical role to transmit the mail is critical to ensuring trust in the electorate and facilitating American elections while respecting the constitutional role of the states. This is an interesting argument, saying that this is by statute no longer under his purview. You would think that that sort of seems like it's unconstitutional, like they're going beyond their constitutional bounds. But it has been around for 55 years, right?
Yeah, but there was a whole bunch of laws that they did in the 70s that were unconstitutional, one of them being the War Powers Act.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the Supreme Court doesn't recognize it, right? To prepare for the 2026 midterm elections, the United States Postal Service already released its 2026 election mail and political mail guide and issued its 2026 general election mail preparedness memorandum to every employee in January. During the 2024 general election, the Postal Service successfully delivered over 99 million ballots, and over 97% were delivered in fewer than 3 days. Postal Service must continue this proud and successful tradition. Accordingly, the Postal Service should not implement the president's unconstitutional executive order. Like the president, the Postal Service has no authority to regulate the manner of voting in federal elections, nor who is eligible to vote by mail in such elections. For over 250 years, the Postal Service has bound our country together to constitutionally recognize mail service. And for 250 years, American people have democratically elected their leaders. Those two things are independent of each other. They've got nothing to do with each other. Any attempt to effectuate this order would violate the Constitution, break these bonds, and threaten the foundations of American democracy. American democracy! Democracy's on the line! Oh, no!
They didn't say, think of the children.
It is. What about the children? I do think that this latter argument here is more interesting to me than the rhetoric at the beginning. The rhetoric at the beginning sounds silly. But this argument here that it's not under his purview is something that is intriguing to me, and I hadn't considered, and I think I should consider it. So let's think this through.
What if he directs because Postal Service has their own law enforcement, postal inspectors. Those have to be under the executive branch because they have prosecutorial powers. So he could order the postal inspectors to do it.
Let's see if we get some help from Grok here. Hey, Grok.
Hey.
I'm curious, is the United States Postal Service part of the executive branch?
Yes, the United States Postal Service is part of the executive branch. It's an independent agency within the executive branch, created by
such thing.
Congress, but operating under the president's authority. The Postmaster General is appointed by the Board of Governors, who are themselves presidential appointees, confirmed by the Senate. So while it has some operational independence, it's officially an executive branch entity, not legislative or judicial.
How can a part of the executive branch be independent of the executive branch?
Good question. It's actually not truly independent of the executive branch. That's a common misunderstanding. Here's the clean breakdown. Independent agency just means it's not inside a cabinet department like Treasury or Defense. It sits directly under the president instead of under a secretary. The president still appoints the Postmaster General through the Board of Governors and the 9 board members. The president can also remove board members for cause. Congress created it with the 1970 Postal Reorganization Act to give it more business-like freedom. It doesn't get annual appropriations from Congress. It has to cover its own costs. So it's independent from day-to-day political meddling, but it's still very much part of the executive branch. Think of it like the EPA or the FBI. They're also independent agencies, but still report to the president. The term independent is more about insulation from routine politics than real separation from executive
That's
power.
another way that the Marxists are changing the language, because when it's independent, it means it's not a part of an agency or a cabinet position or a cabinet agency type of thing. They've changed that to mean like, no, that means it's not part of the executive branch. So that's probably the same thing as the Fed. It's actually just, it's in the executive branch. It's not independent. It's just not.
It sounds a lot like the Fed.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same idea. Both the Postal Service and the Federal Reserve are called independent agencies for the same reason. Congress wanted to protect them from day-to-day political pressure. Quick comparison. Postal Service, independent so politicians can't force it to deliver mail for free or mess with rates every year. Federal Reserve, independent so politicians can't print money.
Yeah, I don't care about the Federal
or cut
Reserve. Let's
interest.
stop talking about them for a moment. But I want to focus on this Board of Governors. So do they have to answer to Trump or not, since he's the head of the executive branch?
Yes, they do answer to Trump. Here's the real-world situation. The Board of Governors, 9 people, are all appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Trump can fire any of them for cause, meaning if they're not doing their job or they're breaking rules, he can remove them. The Postmaster General, who actually runs the day-to-day operations, is chosen by that board, but the board itself serves at the pleasure of the president, with those limited removal protections. So even though the Postal Service is structured to be somewhat shielded from politics, Trump, as head of the executive branch, still has ultimate oversight over the board. He can't micromanage daily mail delivery, but he absolutely can replace board members if he wants to change direction at USPS. Bottom line, they're not free agents. They ultimately report up the executive chain to the president.
We already know that the Supreme Court thinks all of these limitations on the president's ability to fire people
are crap.
Congress doesn't have the authority to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm standing by my gut reaction, which is I do think that his actions here are going to be deemed, his executive order is going to be deemed to be lawful. I'm going to stand by that. Less confident, and so I'm not calling this a prediction. I'm saying that's where my strong leanings are right now. And in other words, Virginia was a prediction. This is like my feeling on this is pretty strong that he's in the right here. So that's where I'm at on that. We are in our extended time now, and you all can thank this fine woman here, Kimberly Campbell, who basically she just carried us to the goal. She's like, you know what, give me that goal.
Well, I thought I thought the goal was for Saturday. You were going to do a long show Saturday or something.
It is, but I threw in there that I said if we get 20 super chats, then I'm going to cover a few extra stories also.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention to that. That's my fault.
That's okay. That's all right. So I'm going to work my way into those few extra stories. We'll move there presently. So here we go. I mean, I guess technically we had Brian Ogden who came in here also, as well as J.H. Schwalbach and John Delane. So there were a few that came in here, but she was the one who carried us across the border. I think they would concur. So, did you hear about Ilhan Omar's potential immigration fraud being pressed?
No, I didn't. That's odd.
Benny Johnson claims that Tom Homan is looking close into her potential immigration fraud and potentially denaturalizing her.
I sat down with the vice president, and he was talking about fraud. He just finished up his first roundtable meeting about fraud and how to attack it with the entire department, with all the department heads. It was very impressive. Of course, everybody's in favor of this. And I asked about the Somali daycare fraud, and he just straight up jumped right in and said, Stephen Miller's upstairs, and he has proof that Ilhan Omar lied on her immigration forms. We have that paperwork. We know she did this. And now we're looking for how to take action. Can you fill us in? Do you know what's going to happen? Is the Trump administration going to go there? The floor is yours.
The whole file is being reviewed. A lot of smart people are on it. Stay tuned.
Could you color for us what of the elucidated
fill the lines in
there are that it could be? Because
I cannot get ahead.
There's like a lot of potential things that could have been there.
I can't get ahead of the investigation, but I know that some of this. I know people that are involved in the review, and they're really smart people, and it's in good hands.
All right.
Now, I will say that this is a little bit of a dangerous road to go down. Because this is something that if you try to get her denaturalized, she becomes a martyr, right? I mean, that's what's going to happen. That's the reality.
I don't know. Homan might just be being cute. There might not be. He's just saying, "Stay tuned." He might not know anything. I'm not. I hope it's true, but I don't know.
Yeah, I feel as if that there's a very big risk that she becomes a martyr, if you fail, meaning if it's not deemed legally proper to denaturalize her, she becomes like a heroic figure, right? I mean, I'm being realistic here. She becomes a heroic figure. So it's a sort of game you don't want to play unless you know you're going to win. Because if you lose here, if you win, great. If you lose, that is a level of egg on your face, which is hard to remove. And maybe Trump will be doing that and thinking about doing that in the end of the year after election season. But I think that playing that game now is a very, very dangerous game, because if you lose and that loss comes in October, she becomes like this cause célèbre. She becomes like a real celebrity, like she's the martyr who is wrongfully. Even if you succeed, the left is going to hail her as a martyr. But if you fail, that their efforts to hail her as a martyr will become that much worse.
I think they should be looking into more of how she's claiming that she didn't really make $30 million, that it was only $90,000. It was some kind of mistake on the paperwork.
Oh, I definitely think that we should be prosecuting her and throwing her in jail.
Yeah.
That I think is something that should happen.
I mean, you heard that story, right? That the reports came out about all the money the wineries made and stuff like this, or the wine, how it increased in value. And then now she's out like, no, it's not. It was just, that's an accounting error.
Yeah. She basically pretended that was an accounting error.
Yeah.
And, right. So I also had a bunch more I wanted to share with you guys here. Here's still on Ilhan Omar. This is just in. Minnesota lawmakers have launched an investigation into Ilhan Omar over her incredibly close ties to a $250 million Somali fraud ring. Omar even held campaign events at the fraud's headquarters.
Financial disclosures had said the estate of Omar and her husband, Tim Minett, jumped from being in debt to somewhere between $6 million and $30 million in 2024. They amended their financial disclosure and released it to show the estate is really somewhere between $18,000 and $95,000.
Which that we heard about yesterday.
The discrepancy as much as $29 million on an accountant who did not subtract the liabilities of Minett's businesses. And this is the same congresswoman who championed the Meals Act. That was the COVID relief program intended to provide food for poor kids.
There's no way that possibly happened. There is no accountant. Although I saw someone joke that maybe the accountants, it seems like the accountant went to the Leering Center, and that's where they learned accounting. But there's no way an accountant would make that mistake. That's not possible.
Suffering during the pandemic. Republicans.
It's not.
Unless there's some shady stuff that they're doing deductions on that really aren't deductions. He's like, no, do this way.
There's no way. It's not possible.
That created the pathway for the Feeding Our Future scandal, a $250 million boondoggle of meals billed but never provided. A restaurant at the center of the scandal was a safari restaurant. Omar held campaign events there. One of the owners, Salem Ahmed Saeed, was convicted for his role in the scandal. The Republican chair of the House Fraud Committee made repeated requests for Omar to show up. No response from Omar.
It's just another example of disrespecting.
So, yeah, apparently there's more investigations into Ilhan Omar. You have to wonder how many lives this cat has. Because, my God, she seems like impossible to kibosh, doesn't she? What else did I have for you? Oh, yeah. I saw this thing from Jeremy Boring that I wanted to get your thoughts on. Okay? I never really thought about the language. What?
Hold on 1 second. Did they actually try to claim that he has over $29 million in liabilities?
Apparently. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. It's not possible. It's not possible. None of this makes any sense.
That would mean like loans and stuff, right? They owe money on stuff. So that who loaned him the money? Is that a scam? Is it just like these loans that they gave to Biden, where they give him a loan of money and they don't have to pay it back?
It's not possible. It's not possible. Here's the thing. If there was 29 million, no one would be making only $100,000 on $30 million coming and going. No one would be doing that. It's not. If you told me that she made $1.5 million, they made $1.5 million on 30 million coming and going, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. No human, no employee, no business model, nothing. No one has ever made $100,000 on 30 million with 29.8 going out and 30 million coming in. That doesn't happen. So yeah, there's fraud that's going on here. Now, maybe you have business expenses where, like, out of the 30 million, when they talk about the expenses, like the company itself, is paying salaries, or I have no idea. I haven't seen her records. I'd sort of like to take a look at her records. Is that public record?
Well, her finances are supposed to be public because she's a congressman, so they're supposed to be filed and all. Like that's I think they're supposed to be. I don't know, but I don't believe none of them anyway. They're all finding ways to cheat. There's different things they do.
Yeah. None of it makes any sense. But I expect that we're going to hear more about this as it goes on. I just feel like I don't want to have every day of the week being Ilhan Day. I think people get tired of it, which is why I didn't want to make the show about that. This is sort of like our extended time coverage, so that's why I'm sharing that. And part of my extended time coverage is this interesting breakdown, this 90 seconds from Jeremy Boring, where he's talking about the language, the mental trick that some of the woke right grifters use in order to make their claims sound far more compelling than they actually are. And I thought this was, I'm very fascinated by how our minds work and understanding that on a deeper level. And I think he's touching on something here that makes some sense. So I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Here he is opening his monologue on the war in Iran. Quote,
he's talking about Tucker Carlson.
It's universally recognized at this point, pretty much, that continuing this war with Iran is not in the identifiable interests of the United States. And here he is later in the same broadcast on the killing of children in Gaza. Quote, "It was done on purpose, obviously." Universally recognized, done on purpose, obviously. This is what's known as epistemic closure, language that signals that the question has already been settled. So asking for evidence feels like you're the one who's out of bounds. One claim dressed in consensus, one dressed in self-evidence, no source, no evidence, no I believe, no it seems to me, just the layered assertion of a man who simply knows things, telling you that now you know them too. Universally recognized and obviously aren't actually making any arguments. They're skipping the arguments entirely. They're telling you the verdict is already in, that reasonable people have already agreed, and that to ask for evidence is to embarrass yourself. My team analyzed.
And that's an interesting thing, that the point is to shame you from asking questions. Like, well, how do you know this? Where does that come from? That's the point, is that like, well, everyone knows this, you're an idiot. It's to make you feel like you're a fool if you question the legitimacy of their claims. This way, I don't have to prove my claims. I can just tell you, that everyone understands that there's no podcast. Everyone understands there's no podcaster who has nearly the talent I have. And it's like, wait, you're questioning that? And by throwing it out there like that, you're sort of framing it as, this is, if you're questioning it, that makes you the jackass. And I think it's a very interesting thing as far as understanding how our minds work. And I think that he's onto something here, that this language trick is purposefully designed in order to start from a position of authority. It's to make you feel as if you have no choice. And the interesting thing about it is you're learning information and then accepting it as gospel the moment that it's coming out of his mouth, because he's framing it as if this is, what you would accept as gospel truth.
23 episodes of Tucker's show, we found hundreds of examples of this kind of language. Obviously, clearly, of course, everyone knows. It's a pattern. It's delivering a verdict with no detectives or lawyers or jury. Who needs proof? Everyone knows. There's a well-documented effect behind this. It's called the illusory truth effect. The more often you hear something, especially something stated with extreme confidence, the more likely you are to believe it, whether it's true or not.
So what are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree with them. It's how he's basically not asking questions. He's making statements, and they're meant to just stop debate.
Right. It's the conclusory nature, but it's not just conclusory. It's conclusory combined with the assertiveness of, like, who still questions that? And when you do that, like, and we've seen people on the other side of the aisle do this a lot. This is why it's sort of embarrassing to see so many people who, supported Trump fall for this nonsense, because we saw these tactics employed by the left over and over again. I'll give you a case in point. COVID treatments, right? It's like, well, this is the science, trust the science. Like, what is, but it's like, why would you even question that? Like, are you an epidemiologist? Do you know better than Dr. Fauci? Have you studied medicine as long as he has? And it's like that position of authority, but it's more than that, because it's in trust the science is implying I need to convince you to trust the science. This is like, although built into that is, this is what the science says, even if the science doesn't say that. Even if but we saw with climate change also, right? It was like, boom, overnight, if you didn't trust that climate change was real, you were an idiot. I had someone once ask me, like, when I was questioning climate change, this is, going back 10 years on, as I was just going on Threads or whatever, and just, I don't remember the name of the site that I used to blog on from time to time. But that's where I first saw that's where I first came across Michael Tracy. But they, I said, I don't think climate change is real. And I had someone respond to me, really? Do you believe in gravity? Like, it was so obviously true, because everyone had just accepted it. But here, you don't even have this broad consensus. You just have a couple of people with very broad base of listeners who basically saying this is what's accepted as truth. So now that has to be your truth. Otherwise, you're a fool. You're blinded. You're a sucker. There's something wrong with you. And we see this on and on and on. We're seeing it with Tyler Robinson. We see it with Iran. We see it all over the place. And it's something that part of the reason I wanted to share this clip with you was because I think this is the sort of thing that once you see it, once you hear it expressed like this, you can now be more informed. You become more alert for it, more alert for people who are speaking in that type of tone, to recognize that these are not people who have truth on their side. These are people who are insecure that they lack truth on their side. They don't want to go through the actual hard work of proving the point that they're making. So instead, they cut to the chase and tell you this is what these are facts that anyone who knows anything knows. And in trying to bake it in that way into your psyche, the objective is to try and make you never question their dogma. And it's no different from any other dogma, but this is their dogma that they want you to accept as being truth. So I wanted my audience to be aware of this, because I think that now when he frames it in such a way that I think it's easier to actually identify it when you see it next. So that's why I really wanted to share with y'all. What else did I have for you? I did have more on the Southern Poverty Law Center, which where is this? This is Virginia. Okay, yeah, let's get into Southern Poverty Law Center. Do you know how long people have been identifying the Southern Poverty Law Center for being full of crap? Do you know how long this has been going on?
I think since the 80s, right?
Yeah, but as far as like their fictitious hate group stuff, they've been around since like the 80s.
No, I thought SPLC first came around in the 60s.
Here's John Stossel in 2018 calling them out.
There are dangerous hate groups in America. Who will warn us about them? The media haven't answered.
By the way, you like John Stossel?
I like some of his stuff. Like, I like this reporting and stuff like that. Like, I think he was part of the reason, him and Geraldo, that got all the mental hospitals shut down, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah?
Reagan. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was their reporting. Like him.
I get him confused with Geraldo.
I think they both worked together with 60 Minutes, I think, or something like that, or one of those.
They look the same to me. I get him. I for years I didn't even realize John Stossel was a different person from Geraldo. Every time I saw John Stossel, I thought it was Geraldo. I cannot be the only person who thinks that way. I happen to think he has a lot of charisma. His presentation style is something that is incredibly laudable. I think that he does a really good job of just making you feel like he's I don't know, like there's something really powerful in his delivery. He's got some real charm.
Southern Poverty Law Center. The Southern Poverty Law Center.
The Southern Poverty Law Center, based in that building in Alabama, calls itself the premier group monitoring hate groups. Looking at their map of such groups, you'd think America was consumed by hate. I once believed in the center's mission. Well-meaning people still do. Apple just gave them $1 million.
$1 million.
Don't know is that today the center smears people who don't deserve to be smeared.
The presence of radical Islam.
This woman grew up in Somalia, suffered female genital mutilation. So now she speaks out against radical Islam. For that, the center put her on its list.
Multiculturalism failed these communities.
This man was once an Islamic extremist, but then he decided radical Islam was wrong, and now he criticizes the radicals. The center labels him an anti-Muslim extremist, too.
Join the fight against hate and bigotry.
Visit SPLcenter.org.
I do think that we have a problem with hate in this country.
We put about 10 of these major hate groups out of business.
The center's leaders, Richard Cohen and Morris Dees, would not talk to me. So commentator Nomiki Kant stepped up to defend them.
They have a long history of fighting against extremists like the KKK.
Years ago, Harper's Magazine reported that the center is the wealthiest civil rights group in America, one that spent most of its time and money on a fundraising campaign. Now, Morris Dees did once promise to stop fundraising once his endowment hit $55 million. But when he reached $55 million, he changed that to $100 million, saying that would allow them to cease costly fundraising. But when they reached $100 million, they didn't stop. Today,
they have an endowment that now is over $320 million, much of which is in offshore accounts, Caymans and places.
$300 million.
I know they took in
$300 million.
After Charlottesville, they took in over $100 million.
Yeah, that was a great investment by them.
Yep.
Just like that.
How do you know?
Oh, we look at their 990s.
And it says Cayman Islands?
Yeah.
They pay some of their people more than $400,000 a year.
Well, it's 2017. It costs a lot of money to exist in this world.
The Southern Poverty Law lists people like Ben Carson, Laura Ingraham, and Jeannie Pirro as extremists. But it doesn't list Antifa, the hate group that beats up people on the right. The center's become a hate group itself. It's now a left-wing, money-grabbing slander machine.
I agree.
That's all the way back in that's 8 years ago. 8 years ago, John Stossel was calling this crap out. I just thought it was interesting that this is something that folks have been assessing for a long time, and in fact, TPUSA blames the SPLC for Charlie Kirk's murder.
Well, I know before, like I did a story on it when it happened. I think it was May of last year. They did a hit piece on Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're going in this clip over here.
Hate. But guess what? There is a supply and demand issue when they cornered the market on monetizing hate. But guess what? There is a supply and demand issue when it comes to hate. So they had to gin up more. They had to manufacture more hate. And when they run out of actual racist and KKK and Aryan Nation groups, guess what? They turn to Turning Point USA. And Jesse, I hope your audience realizes this and really internalizes this. They put Turning Point USA on the hate map at the SPLC, the quote-unquote hate map, in May of 2025. Less than 4 months later, Charlie would be killed by an assassin who said, quote, "Some hate can't be negotiated out." They put a hit on Charlie. They put us on a target list. And I will never forget, Jesse, that when this happened, I remember talking with Charlie, and he said, in typical Charlie fashion, he wasn't worried about himself. He was worried about our students. This wasn't just about Charlie, although this obviously tragically impacted all of us and Charlie directly, but he was worried about our students all over across the country. And honestly, this is blood money. You mentioned that their donations skyrocketed, almost tripled in 1 year after Charlottesville, which they helped fund. This is blood money, Jesse. And if MGM and JP Morgan and Tim Apple and the Clooneys have any self-respect, they would demand their money back.
Yeah, but they don't have self-respect.
TPUSA should sue them, like Gavin McInnes did.
That'd be an interesting thing. That'd be an interesting thing to
or
see.
Erica Kirk could sue him and say that her husband's dead because, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it would go. I don't know.
I don't think that would work.
Fear keeps.
I don't think that would work. Here's Greg Gutfeld weighing in.
Greg Gutfeld's going to be a dad again.
Is he?
Yeah.
Good for him.
Keeps the lights on. Fear keeps us divided as a people, and fear gets people elected. And that's how you get this.
From white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today. Not ISIS, not Al-Qaeda, white supremacists. No matter what
This speech right here, I will never forget the rest of my life. The hate that he expressed, I felt it was pointed at me personally. When he's talked about Ultra MAGA, and this speech right here, I will never forget, ever. And I will never forgive him for this.
white supremacists and the extremists say as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy. To be the most lethal terrorist threat to the homeland today, white supremacy.
So we knew this was hate-filled, And now we know the SPLC helped to fund it with the Unite the Right rally, which gave us the Fine People hoax, where Trump was accused of equating Nazis with peaceful protesters.
And that's the thing is they gave legitimacy to Biden's crap by funding this BS, this stupid Unite the Right rally.
You think they funded? Remember when those guys with the tiki torch went to go buy Youngkin's bus? Would you think they were behind that too?
I don't know, but this whole tiki torch thing, it's like, you know, they don't name anyone from, and someone pointed out, they don't name anyone from this. So are they all just actors? I have no idea what the hell is going on here.
Yeah, we never did find out any of the people with tiki torches. None of them were exposed. No one ever doxed them.
None of them.
Like the people that would do it, the left is like, no, we know who those people are. They're ours.
So to repeat, the entire narrative of Biden's candidacy was based on a hoax created by a left-wing group, then protected by the media, who did no investigation into who
he's about to make that point now.
These haters were. The media is oddly incurious, in addition to corrupt and stupid. We never found out who those people with the torches were, did we? Yet the same mob was able to track down Jan's 6 grannies, which is why it's not just about the SPLC. It's about politicians who embrace them, the corporations that donated to them. Hell, Apple gave them $1 million. So did George Clooney. And then there's the media outlets who needed to make the lies.
And George Clooney is scum.
True. So they can say it's racist to deport people in the country illegally. So that everyone in the next Star Trek is trans. And that hiring based on merit is as out of date as the canned beans I donate to food drives.
Wait, what?
Of course, these allegations.
Wait, he's donating botulism?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess.
That was a very subtle joke.
Will have to be proven in court, but the plot is exposed. Fact is, America is one of the least racist societies in human history. And that's bad for business if your business is racism.
Another thing like a lot of people don't realize either, Joe, is like the SPLC, they classified like Islamic terror attacks as right wing.
Did they?
Yeah, because they're conservative. They're conservative Muslims. You know, like the Wahhabis are conservative Muslims. You know, yeah, Islam, that's very conservative.
Yeah. Yeah. And Melissa Tate shared out a flashback of Nick Fuentes discussing going to Charlottesville for the Unite the Right rally, which is now being revealed to have been funded by the SPLC. That's why I started the show off with a little clip of him walking out, because I am fairly convinced that he got some of that SPLC money.
What we're doing with Unite the Right is let's put every important person in our movement in one place, and everyone sees us as a threat to civilization. I mean, isn't that kind of worrisome? I don't know. I mean, I hope I'm not concerning people. I'm still going to go. You know, you can't live your life in fear, but you think of it that Kessler, Enoch, Spencer, James Alsop, Baked Alaska. I mean, like everyone's going to be there. Sam Hyde, Lauren Southern, people from Rebel Media are going to be there. And I don't know. Is that a great idea? I don't know who thought it'd be a great idea. Like, hey, let's all.
The SPLC thought it would be a great idea.
Everyone thinks we're Nazis and bigots, and let's just go in the middle of an open field. All the important people. Look,
the important people. Yeah, you're very important.
I understand the importance of rallying the troops, building the morale, uniting the right. That's why I'm going, but I am a little worried about that part of it. That you might get some nut job, some Travis Bickle LARPer down there with some bad intentions and some bad ideas.
No, he's a LARPer himself. So there you go. There you go. I just wanted to, these are the, I'm sharing with you all now. I'm cleaning out the reservoir of the interesting clips that I found that I was like, I really should be sharing this stuff with my audience. It reminds me, I had a few more here that I wanted to pull up here before we get on out of here. What do I have here? What do I have here? Oh, while we're dealing with Nick Fuentes, this was astonishing. I don't know who put this together. I don't know how they put this together. This blew my mind, just how tailored his language is and sounds exactly the same as Anna Kasparian. Unbelievable. You're not, Jim, are you ready to be shocked?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Shock me.
I'm going to shock you. This is crazy.
Our country is under a hostile occupation.
Israeli occupation of the United States government.
Israel controls our government.
Israel controls our government.
Control and influence and manipulate our system.
Ruled and controlled and manipulated by the nation state of Israel.
They are vampires. They suck our blood.
They suck the life out of this country.
We cannot be slaves to Israel.
I'm not a slave to Israel.
Iran does not have a nuclear weapon.
Iran did not have a nuclear arsenal.
The supreme leader of Iran promulgated a fatwa.
He had put out a fatwa against nuclear weapons.
Isn't this crazy?
It's crazy.
We had to join Israel's war of choice.
A war of choice. That's what this is.
The real threat to America is from Israel.
Our alliance with Israel as an existential threat to the United States.
They will nuke the entire world.
Israel is the biggest threat to world peace.
Let us never forget who the real enemy is.
The enemy is Israel.
We need to decouple from this country.
We need to decouple. Decouple. Let's separate.
It's almost like she's like, wait, what was the next thing I was supposed to say? It's like he's feeding her the lines.
We need to free America from this sick, perverse, parasitic organism that has attached itself to us. Foreign nationals leeching off of public services.
The pariah state that has leached off the American people.
It's not just Netanyahu. On some level, it is the Israeli people.
The behavior of the Israeli government and, quite honestly, the vast majority of the Israeli population.
They dehumanize us. They don't see us.
I don't see Palestinians as human.
I'm an awakened goy. Jewish people think they're better than everybody.
And you think you're better than everyone else.
You know, the Jews do this.
Yes.
Go the fuck back to Israel.
Go back to Israel.
Greater Israel.
The Greater Israel Project.
The famous dancing Israelis.
The whole dancing Israelis thing.
The genocidal state?
A genocidal, disgusting state.
Why would I give a fuck about Israel?
I don't give a damn about Israel. I don't give a damn.
And I don't fucking trust them.
I don't trust the Israelis.
Your right to exist is not real.
I don't believe Israel has the right to exist.
Don't be moralized by wicked, evil people.
People as evil as this exist in this world.
God's chosen people rejected their own Messiah.
You think you're God's chosen people when you act like absolute demons.
That blew my, I don't know. They did that so well. That was crazy. I saw that and I was just like, wow. I mean, you knew that there was some overlap of talking points, but just to have line by line like that, that was crazy.
It is. I don't follow Nick Fuentes, but I mean, people tell me, and I don't know if it's true or not, so maybe I shouldn't say, but people tell me that like every election, he basically tells people not to vote for the Republican.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
he actually put out a tweet saying, I'm voting Democrat in 2026.
So I don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. He's voting Democrat in 2026. He probably voted Democrat every election. He said, don't vote for Trump. I mean, come on. I don't know how people still listen to a guy who said, who said in October, don't vote for Trump. I don't know how anyone listens to that, but people do. People do. By the way, I have this thing here on talk about other rhinos. I missed this when you said this. I'd seen it and I didn't really understand what you were saying, Richard. He asked, did I ignore my suggestion or did I miss it? I did not address, and I apologize. I was wrong on me, Richard. I'm sorry for that. Limit students, China and America equals America and China. I don't know what you mean by America equals America and China. I'm all for limiting how many Chinese students are able to come here. This is an area of policy that I disagree with President Trump about. It's all about, let's bring in as many foreigners to our school system as possible. I don't understand that at all. I disagree with him on that policy. I think that's crazy. But he thinks it's bettering America by bringing in talent and importing talent from across the world. I think that we have plenty of talent domestically. So that's an area where a policy that I disagree with Trump, and I agree with you. We shouldn't be limiting students. We should be like saying no more student visas.
I saw something else. I don't know if it was a
So I apologize
Bill,
for missing your chat earlier.
Or an executive order or something, like I believe it was an executive order, or it was directing the State Department to tell, like somebody to tell the State Department to stop issuing the visas, the letting the Chinese come into those islands and have the babies and leave.
Yeah, you're saying the birther tourism.
The birth tourism that's happening in, like, I think in like Saipan.
Yeah, in these American territories.
Yeah, in American territories, are like telling you, because that's something that you can just stop. You're like, no, you're letting them fly in without a proper visa, and the visa, you know, basically you should say no when they come in. You see they're pregnant, you tell them no, turn around.
Yeah, that's so that would be the way to handle it. That would be the way to
Marshall
handle it.
Islands, Saipan, yeah, it's all right there, all around.
But the problem is, it's not just Democrats; it's Republicans also. This came out today. Rhino betrayal exposed live. GOP Representative Mike Lawler gets absolutely hammered for voting with Democrats to shield 350,000 Haitian migrants under the abused temporary TPS scam. He's parroting the cheap labor lobby script, claiming our entire healthcare system would collapse without flooding nursing homes and disabled care with third world workers. Tommy Lahren drops the hammer. It feels like we've become a hotel for the third world. Brandon Gill calls it exactly what it is. The lobbyists running DC one-on-one to force amnesty. Straight up uniparty mass replacement. TPS has been weaponized for years to sell out we the people. No more excuses. It ends now. Here's that election. Here's that vote which fell thanks to these 10 Republicans who suck. Unbelievable.
But it doesn't really matter what they did anyway. It's not going anywhere. They ain't going to pass in the Senate, and Trump doesn't have to sign it.
It's just a reflection of who these people are.
Oh yeah, yeah. But that's the thing, is they voted this way knowing
it's not gonna pass.
Yeah, what are they? This is a big FU to everyone. Like, these people who voted for this, there's not any chance. They better be getting primary.
Yeah, but that doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't seem to happen nearly often enough.
I'm glad you are. To extend temporary protective status for hundreds of thousands of Haitian migrants living in the U.S. This comes just weeks after an illegal alien from Haiti allegedly killed a woman in Florida with a hammer.
I can't show this. I can't show this moment here.
No, they blur it out. They blur it out.
With it blurred out, I can show it, you think?
Yeah, I showed it on my show, yeah.
Yeah? You didn't have a problem?
No, no problem.
Okay. He's about to smack this woman. He's about to kill her.
It's all blurred. You're not going to see.
He's about to kill her with a hammer. He just runs up to her, hits her with a hammer in the head. And
this happened not far from me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Congressman Brandon Gill joined us last night and had this to say about that House vote.
There is a very large cheap labor lobby in Washington where businesses will come and they'll meet with members of Congress individually. You hear members of Congress actually on both sides of the aisle who have said that the healthcare system in the United States will collapse if we don't give amnesty to Haitians.
All right, Congressman, you knew this was coming. I want to give you a chance to defend this position. I know that you have. I want to say I have respect for the fact that you have Haitians in your district. I respect the fact that you have Democrats in your district. I know that unlike some, you are in maybe a difficult position.
I didn't watch this yet, so I'm curious to see what this schmuck says. This is obviously Mike Lawler.
However, perhaps I'm misunderstanding the temporary part of the temporary protected status. It feels like this is never ending. It feels like we've become a hotel for the third world. I'm fired up about it. I'm not happy with it. So I want to give you a chance to explain why you voted the way you did.
Well, I appreciate it. A few things. Number one, we're all in agreement that the Biden administration's policies were disastrous and needed to stop.
Yeah, but you suck at trying to actually effectuate their removal.
President Trump ran on securing the border and won on that. He ran on deporting criminal aliens.
Hold on one second. That is exactly the problem with Republicans, the establishment Republicans. We agree that what they were doing was bad and they should stop, but never go back. They've never go back. That's the thing. It's like Michael Malice. I don't know if you know Michael Malice had a great saying. He's always like, Republicans are just Democrats driving the speed limit. They don't break, like, just go.
Yeah, you're right.
They do not, like, he's fine. Just don't let, so as soon as the next Democrat comes in and starts doing it again, they go, oh, they're stop doing this. We need to stop them again. And it's just.
But never undo it.
Never undo it.
Yep.
We are fully in agreement on that. I want to end illegal immigration into this country. TPS, you are correct, is supposed to be temporary. TPS was put in place for Haitians going back to 2010. It was extended numerous times. not just because of natural disasters, but because of political unrest. Their president was assassinated in 2021.
So,
and it has created a real crisis.
Wait, that means because our president was almost assassinated in 2025, you know, Trump almost got shot. That means we should be able to get TPS somewhere, right?
it's the stupidest thing in the world. Who cares? Who cares? Why is that relevant to anything here? It's not relevant.
Control of Haiti, and you have gun trafficking from Miami into Port-au-Prince. The State Department has said it is not safe for Americans to travel to Haiti.
So it's our fault. Our fault. Guns are going to Haiti.
Yeah, apparently.
Personnel. Homeland Security says it's safe for everybody to go back. The reality is, it is a disaster on
Hold on. I saw those Democrats did all the things, and they had the T-shirts. Haiti is great, and what's his fucking name? Conan O'Brien and those Susan Sarandon and all them. Remember?
It's a wonderful place.
Yes, it's great.
It's a wonderful place. He's full of crap, this guy.
I am not looking for this to be a permanent solution.
Of course you are.
But I do recognize that we have a real crisis here. Number one, about a third of the people on TPS work in our healthcare system. They work in hospitals, they work in our nursing.
I don't want to hear about your stupid labor shortage. No one cares. No one cares.
What does he mean by work in our healthcare system? They're janitors. They're not nurses. I mean, so there was a bunch of nurses and doctors that came from Haiti, and they're here.
It's crap. It's complete and total crap.
Homes, they provide care for the intellectually and developmentally disabled. If you immediately cut off TPS without extending work authorization.
Oh, as if 350,000 people are going to leave tomorrow. Shut up. You're so full of crap. Like we haven't seen the fight to every 3 people we want to remove is like 6 court battles. Shut up.
While these immigration cases are being adjudicated, it will create a crisis in our healthcare system.
Lie. You're a big, fat, stinking liar. And I mean every word of that very literally. You're big, you're fat, you're stink, and you're a liar.
For over a year ago was if you are ending TPS, please extend the work authorization for those in the healthcare sector.
Just go to hell.
While the case is being adjudicated.
Go to
so
hell.
That we don't have a crisis in our healthcare
You should
system.
primary the hell out of this
schmuck. I want to
schmuck.
work with the administration to address this challenge.
Shut up. You don't want to work with anything. You're kissing up to your stupid lobbyists.
But just cutting off TPS on people who, by the way, are lawfully here. TPS is a lawful.
The point is to make them no longer lawfully here, jerk.
Once you cut off TPS, they're not lawful anymore.
That's the point.
Full status. We can argue about the way the Biden administration abused the.
He's in upstate New York, Joe. So yeah, he doesn't. I mean, he's in a relatively red district, and if you can't win, then don't win. But don't be a sellout.
Parole process. That's why we worked against it. We passed.
I'm not mad at you. I know you're a big fan of the show. I know you're awesome, Joe. I'm just disgusted by this guy.
HR 2. I have fought back against every Biden administration policy on immigration. I have fought to secure the border. I have fought to end sanctuary cities. I want proof of citizenship to vote, proof of citizenship for government benefits.
Go to hell.
But the fact is,
another thing too, like Joe was also saying, there's a bunch of Haitian nurses. So that means they went to medical school while they were here in the U.S. on TPS, probably I tax dollars paying for them to go to school. This whole thing is making me even madder.
Yes. Everything about his answer here just makes me, I just want to punch this guy in the face.
Realistically, and not just throw the baby out with the bathwater when you are dealing with a real crisis in our healthcare system.
Yeah, these are jobs Americans don't want to be nurses. I don't buy that either. This is all such crap. Such utter crap. Ugh, God. Stupid effing rhinos. Gets me so angry. Should we cover that U.S. soldier was charged with using classified information that was shared with it by Uzelian? Let's do that. I like Uzelian. This broke right before. This will be the final story before we close out tonight. I haven't seen this yet. This was shared with me courtesy of Uzelian, who's awesome. And this broke right before we came live. U.S. soldier charged with using classified information to profit from prediction market bets. U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, Acting Attorney General for the U.S. Todd Blanche, Director of the FBI, Kash Patel, and Assistant Director in charge of the New York Field Office of FBI, James C. Barnacle Jr., announced today, excuse me, the unsealing of an indictment charging Gannon Ken Van Dyke, U.S. Army soldier, with unlawful use of confidential government information for personal gain, theft of non-public government information, commodities fraud, wire fraud, and making an unlawful monetary transaction. The charges arise from an alleged scheme in which Van Dyke used sensitive classified information to make wagers on Polymarket, a prediction marketplace. As alleged in the indictment, Van Dyke participated in the planning and execution of the U.S. military operation to capture Nicolas Maduro, called Operation Absolute Resolve. Van Dyke used his access to classified information about that operation to personally profit. Van Dyke will be presented today before the U.S. Magistrate Judge Brian S. Myers in the Eastern District of North Carolina. The case has been assigned to U.S. District Judge Margaret M. Garnett in the Southern District of New York. Prediction markets are not a haven for using misappropriated, confidential, or classified information for personal gain. Yeah, if you want to do that, you have to be in Congress. Said it's U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton. What do you think, you're a congresswoman?
Why is this the Southern District of New York?
I don't know. It's a good question. Defendant, maybe that's where the markets are situated, the poly market is situated?
I would think those would be out of the country.
Maybe. The defendant allegedly violated the trust placed in him by the U.S. government by using classified information about a sensitive military operation to place bets on the timing and outcome of that very operation, all to turn a profit. Clear insider trading and is illegal under federal law. Those entrusted to safeguard our nation's secrets have a duty to protect them and our armed service members, and not to use that information for personal financial gain.
They're not charging them with insider trading, correct? Because they're not regulated markets.
Yeah, I don't think so. Our office will continue to hold accountable those who misuse confidential or classified information in a way that undermines and exploits our national security. Oh. Widespread access to prediction markets is a relatively new phenomenon, but federal laws prohibit protecting national security information fully apply. Today's announcement makes clear no one is above the law, and this FBI will do whatever it takes to defend the homeland and safeguard our nation's secrets, said Kash Patel. Any clearance holders thinking of cashing in their access and knowledge for personal gain will be held accountable. Gannon Van Dyke allegedly betrayed his fellow soldiers by utilizing classified information for his own financial gain. And FBI Assistant Director in Charge, James C. Barnacle Jr., Van Dyke profited more than $400,000 by trading various outcomes related to Venezuela after learning of the operation because of his role as a U.S. Army soldier. The FBI will continue to investigate threats to our nation's security, especially from those entrusted to safeguard sensitive classified information in military operations. Wow. This goes on for a bit. I'll tell you right now, my personal take on this is I think that this is the right thing to do. You can't let people get away with basically, you can't imagine the chaos.
I think they should have been prosecuted in military courts. I think they should have been prosecuted in federal court in New York because he broke rule. You know, he was an active duty soldier in the military, and he broke rules in the military. This seems like they're trying to somehow tie this in some like it was illegal stock trades or something. It's not.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point. I would accept that. I think that's a fair counterpoint. I don't think he would do better there. I think he actually.
No, he'd get 20 years in Leavenworth or something.
He'd probably prefer this. I think he'd probably prefer this. All right, I'm gonna land my plane over here because I'm feeling like a little bit tired.
All right, no problem.
I thank you for joining me, Jim. Please tell people where they can find you.
You guys can find me pretty much every day of the week at Jim Tells You on YouTube, Rumble, Jim Satala on X, Twitch, Kick, Facebook, Instagram, all those things. And immediately following this show, I will be going on another show on a channel called Black Angus to talk about just some news topics with them. He wanted to have me on as a guest. So
should I redirect you over there?
I was going to redirect over there. You could redirect there if you want, or you could redirect.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Just Black Angus Reviews.
It's called Black Angus Reviews?
Yeah, and the picture should be of a guy from AC/DC. You know, Angus Young.
Black Angus. Sure. I'm not seeing this. Black Angus Reviews. still not saying that. That's the channel.
Yeah, Black Angus, BLACK.
No, I know. I'm getting like Black Angus Steakhouse review. Is it worth it?
No. There should be a third one. Hold on. Did he? What's going on? Let me double check because I already redirected over there. Let me find him. When I put it in, 3 came up.
Here he is. I found him.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah, let me see where his live is.
He should be starting right now.
Yeah, here it is. Notify me. Okay, I got the with the bull on the thumbnail.
Okay, yeah.
I'll try to redirect folks over there. Let's go to customization. Redirect ad. And while I'm here, you want to give me your
my what? Oh yeah, okay. I know what you want.
Yeah, give me a link for you. I'll throw it into the so people can find you. You put it into the chat?
Yeah, I'll do it right now. Hold on. You want it in private chat or regular chat?
Put it in private.
All right.
I'm also going to remind you all that lab meat was never meant for you. It's meant for they them. I don't even know why I still have to tell people this. I feel as if I may have said that once or twice before, but it is not meant for you. It's meant for they them. So please make sure that you stay away from that. Just because it's gross, it's disgusting, and it makes me nauseous to even think you consuming it. It's really disgusting looking. Like it makes me want to retch. It makes me want to vomit. It's horrible, horrible stuff. I don't know who invented it. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. So it's not meant for you.
It's not that I don't care.
What is that?
I love Patrick, but
I have no idea. Maybe that's something.
No, that's the start of his show. That's
All right.
that's the start of his show.
SpongeBob. Okay, yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's what we're all hearing there. All right. And I also want to remind you, do not eat the bugs. God willing, I will be here Saturday night. Thanks to your friend Kimberly Campbell, who basically said, Joe, you got to come back. So Saturday night, we're back. I look forward to seeing you all then. I hope you have a phenomenal weekend. Do not eat the bugs. Have a good night and Godspeed.